Everybody.
Yep,
Hello.
doing 2D to 3D and game graphics. Was this a net positive, or has the overall effect been good, or too much of a focus on it? We'll see when the topic goes. I'm sure it's going to lead into some interesting territory. So this time, just Shippo and Anna. Old Simon had to. What is it they do in
Entertain.
Great Britain?
Entertain. Entertain some guests.
I'm not too familiar with the culture. Does the
I'm not too familiar with the culture.
Like
I
drink
don't.
some tea.
It's
I'm
like
sorry, I don't speak Italian.
like is there anything like specific that like the Portuguese do that's like cultural? Like, hey, we have guests, so we're going to
Oh,
have
we eat.
siesta time or
Oh, we eat. We the guests food. Guests food.
that's really
That's it.
everything. Like everyone
Yeah,
does that, but
even the repairman, like I could say that a couple of months ago, I had a plumber come here because I had some issues, and even like, so do you want a coffee? Oh, can I get you a beer? Can I get you anything to eat? Can I get you it's like if have guests, the main thing is like immediately, can I get you something? Like, and be like
maybe that's a
feel
Hispanic thing. That was like definitely like a thing my
Hospitality.
mom did often. Like the moment there was company, it was just like, yo, what are you trying to eat? All the time
exactly.
without
Like,
fail.
yeah, I think it definitely has to do with not just Hispanic, but the Latin culture, like
Latin, Hispanic.
Italy.
Is there really a
Yeah,
difference? Oh dear. Well,
yeah. I
yeah,
mean
I guess you
that.
can look at yeah, you just look at the behind the scenes. Why not?
Yeah, depends on what you consider it, because there are Latin countries that don't have like the certain the Mediterranean ways, I think has more to do with the Mediterranean ways, and of course that later translated to the Hispanic cultures, and even the Brazilian culture, in the Americas. But yeah, because you have Latin as a language, and you have Latin as a culture. So there are a lot of languages that come from Latin that don't have exactly the same culture, like French, for example. French people, like, they're completely different, but yeah, I think it's a kind of a how can I
Kind
put
of
it?
a
Like,
what?
it's we like to welcome people. Like, we welcome them into our home and make them feel
Hospitality.
yeah, hospitality, make them feel comfortable. Like, yeah, we just like to entertain people, and of course, food. Food is probably the thing the thing that we revolve around most. Um, and at every table, even eating, the three main topics are food, uh, like sex, or like any sexual innuendo thing, or shit, literal shit sometimes. But yeah, never did.
So you
Let's carry
literally
on.
asked them how is your sex life? Unironically. All right.
No, but it's like, yeah, no. We're
Oh,
talking
hey,
about
Mark.
food.
Hi, Mark.
Now, okay, let me
How's your
give
sex life?
you an example. We're having lunch. My daughter is already asking, so what are we having for dinner? And I'm like, we're having lunch. And she, yeah, but what are we having for dinner? So our life basically revolves around um, eating.
Well, okay.
We like food. It's good. It's good. Like food. But yeah, but like you said, Hispanic cultures are kind of like that. Italian, um, yeah. There are other Romance slash Latin language speaking countries that have different cultures. I mean, it really has to do with the culture.
So, video games.
Yeah, so
Yeah. So video
I'm
games.
putting it back on. Let's see. So, like, let's get the wet test. So, the question we're going to ask Senior Chicken is going to be: was it, I guess, like a net positive, a good thing? or just like a positive transition? Is the focus on graphics good? What's your initial, like, what's your stance?
For me, I'd probably say graphics definitely improved, and I want to say it introduced a lot more people because eye candy.
Yeah.
But I want to
Hmm.
say that graphics don't make the game because at the very end of the day, you can have a very beautiful game, but it could run like dog shit, and it also could just not be engaging.
So The Last of Us too. Yes, I agree.
I agree.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I think that the, especially in these last few years, people like, pay too much attention to graphics and oh whoa, look at this realism thing. Like
That's
everything
always been
has
a
to be
thing. That has been
realistic.
around
I mean,
since
it's always been a
Gen 5.
thing, but yeah, yeah, I think it's in my time, in my days,
Here we
those
go
days,
again in my
those days,
day. Let me
but
tell you
Back in my
what.
day.
but yeah, I agree with Shippo. Like, I mean, you could have a beautiful game and be unplayable or not engaging enough. There has to be a balance between graphics and gameplay and what time can a developer adequately spend on each of those things, like how much time do I spend creating an environment that has an amazing gameplay, or how much time and money do we spend on creating amazing graphics, but then the game itself suffers for it.
So you just feel like there is too much of, you just think people are making like a big stink out of it, in a sense.
I don't
People are just
I
too
don't
focused
know.
on the graphics.
I don't know. I mean, of course, with the technological advances, like it's a given that the graphics will be better because the hardware is better. So because the hardware and technology is better, of course the graphics will be
Wait, the hardware
better.
and
But
what?
the hardware,
No, the hardware and what is better? Technology?
yeah,
Okay.
like the advance of technology. Um, um, like with the advance of technology, like of course graphics and things like that will be better, but the gameplay should not be put aside or or be behind graphics. I think gameplay is the essential thing on a game, and of course graphics come second or third depending on the thing. But of course I like to play beautiful games, but if the gameplay, like if it's a boring game, or like it doesn't matter how beautiful it is, I will lose interest, because the purpose of a game is to engage us, like, and not just in the story. And then you have like, okay, so why are the graphics and why are developers um insisting on this topic, like beautiful graphics and then 565 cutscenes in between, like the gameplay, just to create a film. That's basically it. Like we discussed a couple of weeks ago, when we were talking about games turning into films, and if you could just take out all of the cutscenes, you could basically make a full flat film. Like, so yeah, I think that has to come second to gameplay. That's what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying. I think like
Now,
that contention seems to be a thing. I would say it happens more at the beginning of a generation's lifespan as almost a marketing point. So like when we're going from PS2 to PS3,
I
obviously
was
they
about to
they
say that.
they just don't want you to think that you're going to buy the same system. That's going to be, look how much better it looks, look how much more you're going
Hmm.
to get. So I definitely understand like the graphical focus, because you want to know like, hey, what's the difference between PS4 and PS5? Like how much, like, should I even like care in a sense? But then like as the generation goes on, like yeah, you're gonna get like some passing comments on like, hey, the game looks good, but then we'll sort of drift more back into like a gameplay focus. It just seems to die down. Like all the new Unreal 5 coming out is just because it's like the new toy. It's gonna be, yeah, look how good it looks. But then as the novelty starts to sort of wear off, we'll be focusing more on like, okay, it's like what was the value we were getting out of the game?
See, I believe it all goes back, especially with like people trying to dictate graphics over gameplay. Back to the Bit Wars, where it started between like Nintendo and Sega, where I want to say it probably just started with Nintendo because Atari was like the big thing with video gaming, and then everybody was like, "Oh shit, we got this 8-bit system out here running like Mario Brothers, and Mario Brothers looks like 10 times better than your blocky bullshit on Atari."
Yeah.
And so you have these people that are fighting over which system looks better, especially between like Nintendo and Sega. You have, Nintendo does what Genesis don't, but that's backwards. um, Either way, my whole entire spiel about it is that it always came down to, oh, our games look better on Sega versus looking better on Nintendo. Our games run faster. And so you'd see like these side by side commercial comparisons constantly during these wars of console wars. And every generation just seemed to be always focusing on whether or not your system has the superior looking games. And it kind of started dictating for a while, in my opinion, whether or not something was indeed better for your system of choice.
Because they almost came hand in hand, because like not only did it look better, just like there was just so much more power, there's so much you could do, because like how primitive these games were before is just like tile based screens, or maybe the game took
Yeah.
place on one screen alone, and then we come along and say, hey, we can have like parallax screening, we can move the screen, okay, now we can go up and down, okay, now we can transfer into rooms. Now like better graphics was almost like synonymous in that way, where just like the game was just gonna be better. We can do more with this. Look how much more we're adding to the game, where over time, as we sort of
Like
hit that wall, now it's just like the game is the same, but it looks better. Like we are not adding on to it like as substantially as it was, but that's to be expected as we go from like a brand new medium that's just like, hey, we're just really excited with all the tools we're getting. You could really tell like back in the day when you would just look at like developer interviews and people talking about the games. It was all just like about the passion of it. They were really just excited, like, we're getting this new hardware. It's so much more powerful. We can do all these
Yeah,
ideas we just couldn't do
exactly.
before. And they were just like, yeah, we're stoked about it. And nowadays it's just more like, yep, same shit, but
Yeah, I mean,
it looks
I
better.
agree. I agree, and I think that picking up on your argument, I think that as you said, developers wanted to explore the consoles to their maximum capacity in terms of what they could do, the hardware could do, and with that came good graphics. So I think what you're trying to say, or my interpretation of it was because they wanted first that there was a competition between Nintendo and Sega, and then they wanted to explore the hardware to its limits. Uh, that caused good graphics to come, and I think that nowadays, so the focus was not probably was not making like the best beautiful realistic looking thing, but it like doing the best you could do with the hardware in hand, while as so graphics were just a consequence of that better graphics, I believe. And now there are the focus is, oh, let's do this thing extra pretty and then we'll think of the gameplay, you know. I think Last of Us.
That's
I
just
think a
like,
bunch of us think about The Last of Us.
yeah, it's a really good, like for the PS4. Let me get a visual of that. Like for just like being on the PS4, you gotta remember like how old that system is and just like how good that game looks. It really is kind of just like the testament to we can make something look really good, but like it's just fucking garbage in
Yeah,
every other
and I
front.
saw images in comparison, comparing like the PS4, The Last of Us, and the PC port. Oh my god, the PC looked terrible in comparison to the PS4. So it kind of begs like a question, like because PCs we can literally change the hardware, make it like have a good machine for that. So why the difference in graphics between like PC and PlayStation? That kind of was a question I had at the time, but um
Wait, what are you asking?
yeah, because the difference in graphics, just in terms of graphics between the PS4 and PC back in the day, like when it came out, apparently I saw an image, a still image, and then the PC was terrible looking. Like the graphics were horrible. And then you had the PC, the PS, the PS4, sorry, and the game looks great. So that kind of made me think like, how come? Um,
Well, we have to remember one thing. When you're porting over a console game over to PC, most of the time the PC versions are not optimized because they're not built for the running standards of what you're trying to use with the hardware of a console. So
mm,
that's why most PC ports look like dog shit, and they eventually start to look better.
okay.
Especially back in the day too, when like the hardware was so much more specialized. Like just try. That's why
Mm,
that was like a running meme of like the 2000s of like, yeah, that game's gonna come to PC and it's just gonna be, you just expect it to be bad almost, like it's just terrible, and
Oh
just
yeah,
like how bad that
100%.
port's gonna be. But then like as the hardware became like more assimilated, they started making these games with PC in mind. It's like, yeah, the computer's not the issue, it's just like making the game for it. But then the trade-off will be your console won't get like maxed out like performance because you're not building the
okay.
game for that console like
Hmm.
exclusively. Yeah, like the PS4 still looks, it really is just seeming like a resolution output type of thing, but like all the stuff it's handling and all the stuff it's throwing out there, like it's damn just like how much that system could do, which is what makes me wonder like what can the PS5 do? What can computers do if we're just like not
Yeah.
having to consider consoles? Like look how far we're already pushing this, and this is like some 2013 hardware. This is a very, very low end computer, is what you're looking at on the left. That's a very underpowered, low end, like probably less than like a GTX 1080 computer on your left. And
Hmm.
that's what's happening because we made the game specifically for that,
Four. Okay.
which is
Yeah,
just
got
like,
it.
damn, I really am just curious. Like, what can a 4090 do if we're just like, yo, fuck everything else? We're going to make this for the 4090. And
Well,
we'll
I
just,
think one thing that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
oh no, I'm just like, I was just closing that off. But what are you saying?
I was gonna say, nowadays we have to think as well too that most games don't have an exclusivity anymore. Like you have barely any exclusives for consoles anymore. Mostly everything just goes straight to multi-platform. So
Very
I
true.
mean, with the exception of Nintendo games, obviously,
Yeah.
but like Xbox and like PlayStation, and most of the time, like everything's out either on like Game Pass or like PlayStation Now or anything of the sort. So you're you can pretty much run everything on the PC. Like we're
Yeah.
not having those distinctions anymore. There, there's those like outlying factors of like small little exclusives like Demon's Souls or whatever that came out for the
Yeah,
remake on
Bloodborne. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Bloodborne stuff like that. But now like you have people emulating and emulating it better on a fucking PC and
Oh,
it looks
yeah.
better by the resolution scaling and everything versus playing it on the original hardware.
Plus, could you imagine having to buy every single console just because they had one game that you wanted to play? Like that
Yes.
would be like, yeah, like that would it's like for me that I am poor. I wouldn't have money, so so I wouldn't play the game. But I can imagine that many people would buy every single console if they had a game. Like, and yeah, I do agree. We would see those type of that type of exclusivity like what 15 years ago, even 20. 25 years ago, probably.
Are there even any
Um,
exclusives nowadays for the standing consoles? Like, what is like an X? I don't even know what the fucking Xbox console is. I'm sorry. Like, what is like a PS5 exclusive? What is the
I know. I think that there probably is a PS5 exclusive, like
like what?
one game or.
Demon Souls remake is an exclusive for PS5.
Mm.
Um, Xbox has one game. I'm trying to remember what it fucking was. But most of their shit's on Game Pass now, so I'm not sure if it's even exclusive anymore.
Yeah, but like I said, I don't see a benefit. Like, of course, um, commerce wise, like business wise, yeah, like they wanted to sell consoles, but I don't see the advantage of. I mean, there are.
Of
Of selling a game exclusively to one console, but then again, I could like get around that argument and say if you launch a game exclusively for one console, then you can explore the hardware and the limit the console to their to its full limitations, and you know what I mean. So if you like launch a game for multiple platforms, then it has to adapt to multiple platforms, and maybe it won't take full advantage of the hardware that
I'll
those.
agree with you for like the gaming. Like if we're talking just like games as an isolated instance, but I really as like a big picture item, I would definitely say like keep the console war alive. We absolutely do want competition in a business sense because if we get a monopoly, we'll start getting really,
Yeah,
really shitty practices. So like we want people to be able to respond to like, well, Sony started doing this real dumb shit. So the Microsoft was like, hey, what if I don't? And then I'll pull away
yeah,
your
exactly.
customers.
Yeah,
Same thing, like, yeah, so much as we all like meme on like Nintendo as well, like, yeah, keep going, keep the war, keep it alive, keep
I
the
mean,
competition going. We don't want bad practices or like we want competition to be as consumer friendly as possible or to keep gaming as consumer friendly as possible.
okay, they're talking about what hmm sorry, I'm just reading, but I was going to say something but I completely forgot, sorry. PS5, yeah, PS5 still has no game. Oh, like for example, Minecraft. Sorry, Minecraft. I just remembered, like
Sure doesn't, kid. Sure
Minecraft
doesn't.
is exclusive to Microsoft and Xbox. Like you can play it on your phone, of course, but you cannot play it on PS5 or Nintendo or any Nintendo console. So
Yeah, you can.
yeah, they made ports for. Oh yeah, I saw a news that
Yeah, I was about
Minecraft
to
would be
say
coming.
that'd be
Would
stupid
be
if Minecraft wasn't on everything else.
yeah, would be launching on Nintendo, right? On Switch.
Where did you even
Yeah, it's
get
on
that
Switch, it's on PlayStation.
idea? What is happening?
Okay, so Stellar Blade. Hmm. Oh, okay. A Stellar Blade apparently is PS5 uh uh exclusive, but
One.
yeah, one. Yeah, I'm not seeing any more that I can find. Yeah.
Seriously though, what's the
Uh,
name of the Xbox? Is it are we at just Xbox Series now? Is that the name of it?
I think it's Series S or Series X. Let me look it up because I'm not sure.
I'm not sure
What a
either.
they were like they were like the premier console in Gen 7. Like what happened to them? Like they're just so forgettable
Series
now.
X.
Series
Yeah,
X. Okay.
they were just bought by Microsoft, and then yeah.
What are you talking about? Xbox was made by Microsoft.
Yeah, I know. Oh, wait. Sorry.
Yes, it's a Microsoft system.
I'm confusing what's I'm confusing. Okay, so no, sorry. But yeah, I thought the Minecraft, but yeah, they apparently they launched to Nintendo as well, but for many years it was a Microsoft like an exclusive for PC. So um
What was an exclusive for
Mojang
PC?
at the time. Minecraft.
I mean, like, yeah, that's how it
Especially the
started.
Java, yeah, Java edition.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
just ported it though.
Well, while we're talking about like console exclusivity as well too, like we're talking about like the future consoles versus like the previous consoles, like going back to like 2D versus 3D and everything, or not 2D versus 3, but 2D into 3D.
Hmm.
Um, we were talking about like exclusivities that were coming up. We have to remember that one of the big exclusivities that would happen, especially between franchises, we would have to think we have like PlayStation 2. PlayStation 2 has like the domination of like Final Fantasy and stuff like that, whereas like Xbox has Halo. And so those are two distincts that, you were talking about. Oh, what console would you have to buy exclusivity to be able to play so and so? And so there's one example of that. But I want to say that one of the big selling factors as well too for Xbox was the fact that the Xbox was kind of like a mini PC almost. It was built using like I think a standard of Windows if I'm correct.
Why is this so
I have
fucking
to.
hard to emulate? I swear.
I think it's just because the way that they utilize the hardware isn't the same way that it can be emulated with like a PC.
I'm talking about like consoles have emulators all the time. Like the 360 has an Xbox emulator inside of it. The PS3 had a PS2 emulator inside of it. The Wii had a GameCube emulator inside of it. Like what's we've literally cracked the code. If we can emulate PS3, what's the holdup? It's the original Xbox. Like we're not even talking like the 360 here.
I couldn't answer that.
Which I think the emulator is
Hmm.
out, but like I still can't get it to run for the life of me. I just know like there's videos of people who have it going, but just why did it take so long?
Well, it took PS2 emulation a long fucking way to get it to work properly because of the way that the PS2's like CPU ran and everything like that. Just trying to emulate the hardware itself without the original hardware is the big fucking tough part of it from what I've seen.
Yeah, but like that's at least it's been around and games have been playable for almost as long as I can remember. And obviously it's just gotten better across the board, like with like its UI and interface and settings. But the original Xbox just for the longest time was just nope, you can't play anything. It's not out. No progress. I just don't get it. You look very
Yeah.
perturbed.
I'm doing some research on it because if I remember correctly, it has something to do with the hardware limitation, or not hardware limitations, but the hardware itself.
As in, like, what do you? Oh, just like on Xbox emulation alone.
Xbox emulation and PS2 emulation as well.
Oh, on the graphical side, I think did you both lean on it's like a net positive?
I mean,
Or just
yeah,
like
I think so.
just having
I
better graphics in general, which I almost find it very hard to argue. Which is like, yeah, like there's always gonna be shovelware being pushed out there, but at least it looks better.
Yeah, I think so. I think that like you said, that push, that competition between consoles, and look what we can do with 8 bits and 16 bits, and like and that pushed, of course, the whole thing, the whole gaming industry um to push for more and more realistic graphics. But I think it's positive, but I do think that there still is a tendency to over focus on graphics and on the realistic part of the thing. um and oh, look, how many hairs this character has, and like
Hmm.
and that should never be the main focus. You should be focused on creating a good game. The graphics, if the graphics are beautiful, that should be, of course, a second to me a secondary consequence of you utilizing your hardware, your resources in the best way you can. But I think, yeah, net positive, because the advances we've seen like in 20 years, it's astonishing. And do you think that we will hit like a wall in terms of graphics?
Once it looks like real life, yeah. Like, but we have to hit that point first. Like, the wall is going to be like pretty much just like we're able to like model a planet and all its intricacies. So you see that building, you can go inside. There's a family. You see like there's a community doing its own thing over here. Everything functions as it should. You can pretty much just it's an actual sandbox type of deal. And then once you hit that, what do you do from there? It's just you've done it. You've cracked the code. Games look
Hmm.
like movies in a sense. You could try to stylize it. You can just take your art to where you want it to be, but in a sense, I think we do have the graphical power, at least now, to realize people's stylized visions. Like if they just want to do something like really kind of like cartoony and zany, but then realism, like
Yeah.
yeah, like they're still. I can tell your clothing looks fake. People look fake. People don't look like people still. We're just still got a ways to go with like lighting, how stuff behaves,
Hmm.
that type
Yeah,
of
but there.
deal. Like I want to play like a Grand
Yeah.
Theft Auto where like I'm just watching like an episode of Cops basically because I just can't tell. Like,
That
yep,
voice.
that family really did. Damn, I thought I was watching the TV.
I think a good comparison would probably be like one of the newer games that's supposed to be coming out that looks so fucking close to like real life graphics
Ooh, what are
is
we talking?
Unrecorded.
Yeah, 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 unrecorded. Which,
Oh,
if you haven't seen
Unrecorded,
it,
especially.
no, I haven't.
let me pop that shit on because that shit is starting to make me say like, okay, now we're getting somewhere.
Now we're
Now we're
talking.
getting yeah, now we're getting there. But then again, won't that, like, I don't know, kind of destroy a little bit of
Nope,
what gaming, like,
nope.
if if the industry gets hyper focused on making games look ultra realistic, and oh fuck gameplay, this looks good,
Why do
let's
these
sell
things
it.
need to be mutually exclusive?
No, 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 they don't. But the thing is, you have to like, the money spent to make graphics look like this
I would argue like it's going to be
wouldn't
because
you.
like these things come in packages in a sense like
Hmm.
when Unreal 5 gets released then it's not going to cost you as much money for you to make this engine from scratch to do what you need it to do. Just hey, get this engine that already does this kind of
This.
stuff. It's built in.
Okay.
You just have to play around with the assets and put them the way that you want them to be in a sense.
Okay. Yeah, my fear with this is that the people like, yeah, like, will get hyper fixated in making everything look ultra realistic, and
If everything looks
gameplay
realistic, then that's not a
becomes
selling
a.
point.
Yeah, yeah, but like I said, that's my fear, that everything becomes ultra realistic, and gameplay becomes secondary to that, and games suffer because of that, because like we
Again, I
we
think we're
we,
already
we
here. Like this fear you're having, we've been there. Like, have you seen just the mainstream of games currently? We have been there. And it's just a bunch
yeah.
of movies. What are you
Yeah,
talking about?
exactly. That's, yeah, exactly. But the I'm afraid that that will be even worse in the future because of that. Like, even worse. Like, and you are just there to watch and press a button or something, and QTEs, or I don't know. I don't know, man. Um, like you said, it's been happening, and the over fixation on graphics and storytelling and narrative has overpowered gameplay. And
In the mainstream, not on
yeah,
the
in the
low key stream.
yeah, yeah, in the mainstream, of course. And that's what I'm scared of. That people, like, or developers will hyperfixate even more in oh, let's tell a narrative because we are storytellers, and we want it to be directors in Hollywood, but we had no talent, so we came to the gaming industry and fucked
I think the
everything up.
fruition of this is already hit its head. Like the people who are trying to be these fucking movie makers are already in these positions. The people who want to make games are in their positions, and
Mm,
just the tools will be used how they're going to be used. Like we're just going to get that spread. Like there's always going to be people who are just in the back burner fixing to make a Power World type game where they're just saying, I'm really sick of what's out there. I just want to make
yeah,
something that I want to play. That is
yeah.
always going to exist. And then when
Thank
it
God.
proves to be that, hey, this actually makes money, then the business will have to follow. Well, we can't just keep doing what we're doing. It's costing too much money. So let's just
Yeah.
dial it down. Let's go back to just making little simple concepts.
Making games.
But like
Yeah. I
we
mean,
still have like I think we have a very healthy spread. We have like the fucking just fucking nonsense being pushed out by whoever these companies are. We have like the indie scene doing its thing. We got
Yep.
little mobile
yeah.
games out. We got little games for your iPad. You got just fucking
Yeah,
Nintendo being itself.
that's
We
like
got a
a
pretty
yeah,
healthy
yeah.
selection, honestly, like across the
Competition
board.
matters. That's basically it. Competition matters because when there's competition, like the thing is does not become stale. So there's a growth. Otherwise, like you said, if there's a monopoly, then things
We're
will
just
not evolve and
getting
just yeah,
a bunch of microtransaction
yeah.
games, a bunch of
Oh,
just the most
Jesus Christ.
predatory business practices, like yeah, just practices that you can imagine is going to be
Like the
what's going to
the
happen.
Ubisoft, yeah, president, like shit in the
Well, they
world.
got to figure a way to squeeze as much money out of their customers as much as possible because now that with inflation, you have to think that a lot of people probably aren't buying as many consoles or buying as much as they used
Yeah.
to. But I mean, at the same time, too, how are you going to capture your audience and make them, hey, I want to get this because, so and so.
Hmm.
Yeah, so the trailer, I think the gameplay definitely downgraded from this trailer because this is the trailer and it definitely looks better than that gameplay I was just watching.
Hmm.
So
I'm
yeah,
wondering if they had to down it.
no, this is also like another practice that happens. You'll see a trailer and you're like, damn, it looks amazing. And then you actually see the game and you're like, that's not what you promised me. Yeah, this is the trailer and it looks definitely a lot better than the game that I was just watching.
I think that happens with films too. You sometimes you watch a trailer and you're like, "Oh, this is going to be an amazing film," and then you watch the film and you're like, "Oh, the
Oh,
best parts were in the trailer." Okay, cool.
Hmm.
So yeah, um, I mean,
Yeah, and I was looking at this in the trailer, I was just like, holy shit. But
yeah, but this is
then
this
the
looks really good. Like, damn.
I'm
yeah,
wondering though if this is for the main game and the multiplayer is just downgraded to be able to run as many people at once.
Oh, that's a good idea.
mm, I have no idea. Yeah, because like that last video definitely did not look like I was not wowed as much.
Yeah, neither was I. Like, whereas for like
Yeah, this I'm
This,
like,
this right
yeah.
here, I'm like, oh damn,
god damn, man. Like I'm
It
just
looks like a yeah, it looks like like one of those
cam
cameras
footage.
that yeah,
like
yeah,
camp
Yeah,
yeah,
footage.
camera footage, yeah, that cops use. Like, get down on the floor, boy.
All right, let me try to track down. Let me see if there's like any single player footage I can track that's actually active. I don't know if this game
Mm,
is out yet. I don't think it is.
mm.
I don't think it is. I think it's still being worked on, but it generated a lot of fucking hype.
And it's just because of, like how it looks as well.
Oh yeah, 100%.
The Unreal 5 demo. Here's like a new gameplay teaser 2024. Let's see. A car chase scene. Oh, okay, yeah, see. I don't know. Because that footage looks really good, but I just want to see. Ooh, here's a game called Drug War. I've never even heard of it, but it looks like it's on the what? PS5? Okay. Looks like it's like another graphical selling point type deal. Let's see. Nope. Looking at that hand, I'm already like that is a yep. The people just look fake as fuck.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
So what
they
would be your
still they
selling
still
point
didn't.
then?
I'm not
Yeah.
impressed by that. Let me go back to trying to find unrecorded. Let's see. I want to see 5 months ago. What's like the newest one? Record. Yep, this is just little quick shots and snippets. Subway Surfers, but in Unreal 5. Body cam, new gameplay. They didn't even like credit the game. They just called it like a body cam game.
Damn.
Oh wait, unless no, the game is just called Body Cam. If you already have an unrecorded clone, I guess.
What? Really?
Yeah.
God damn, that was quick.
Oh my god. That is just incredible. Yeah, we still have a ways to go. We are nowhere near approaching like just me looking at a game and going, this is just like a guy walking around with his iPhone filming like the wall. This game has real life graphics. Yep, we'll
Hmm.
see. Real life graphics, eh? All right, it's a bold claim there, Cotton.
I don't know. It looks worse than the trailer
What is
Yeah, a little
happening?
bit.
with those arms.
I mean, the environment itself, it's not that bad, but the arms definitely give it up, and the shell case is like you
Yeah,
can
like
see.
this is
I can see
all.
one
It's
of the.
such a
Yeah.
downgrade. Yeah.
I mean, but so, like I said, like, and the question is, do you think that that there will ever be a wall to hit? Because I don't
Yes.
think that. Hmm.
The wall's real life. Once we achieve that, that's the wall. You've done it. Why would they think about how short this timeline is? We started like what? The 80s, and now it's like 40 years later,
Yeah.
and we've gone from just like, hey,
Bits.
this guy,
Pac-Man.
it's a gecko, right? He crawls on the wall and he eats flies, and it's really fun to just like, okay, so you're gonna reenact 9/11, take this stick, and you're gonna find this building, and it looks super realistic. Also, there's like a power wash simulator. You can clean cars and tiles. It looks pretty cool. And that's just 40 years. And like we're pretty much like at this point. I have no reason to believe that we're just going to like not hit that wall.
Okay.
We're getting there. I honestly believe that we will get there to the point where graphics are just going to be indistinguishable, and
Yep,
at
they'll all
that point,
tie.
it's going to be, yeah, it's going to be like what makes me want to buy your game if I have so and so game, like game A has the same amount of like realism and lookalikes, and versus what your game has to offer with the same looking graphics.
Okay.
Which is the console war in a nutshell, because like the console wars are typically three systems, or has been
Yep.
for a while, that they
Yep.
are more or less tied. You can't really one up me with graphics, so what else are you doing? Which is like why Nintendo's probably the smartest, because they really do ask that question where it's like, well, if we're just doing what they're doing, what exactly makes them want to play our games? So
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
literally try to
For
like
sure.
innovate. Innovation is like part of a core tenet of that company, of like, we can't just keep making the same shit over and over. We gotta, that's why they're so hesitant to like release. There's not a Mario Kart every year. There's not gonna be a Zelda every year. There's not gonna be a, unless you're Pokemon. Well, not even Pokemon. It's not Pokemon every year. It's like they really do try to ask the question of like, what can we do that's like different? What can we do that's going to bring people in? Which is why I don't even think we've had like the Switch like successor, because like, hey, the graphics are the graphics. Like, what are we going to do to like, we can't just make like a third high end system to be next to the Xbox One and the PS5. That's stupid. Like, we're just gonna
Yeah.
be like another one. So like, what are we going to do? Why are people going to
What's
choose
the next
us over
gimmick?
them? Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So what will make us
choose
different
them.
from the from all the other systems. Yes, yes, yeah, I get it.
And part of us
So
just
then,
simply wants to like, hey, I want to play like a Zelda that looks really, really good. Yeah, but then they're trying to think big picture of okay, so once we do that, what exactly makes you
what is the next step?
what exactly makes you pick our thing over like the other people's thing? And I think they learned hard from like the GameCube was I think the last time they were pretty much on par with their competition. The GameCube was
Mm.
like the second strongest system, right behind the Xbox, and they just got blown out by Xbox and PS2.
What made the PS2 last so long though? Because the PS2 lived for a long fucking time after Xbox and GameCube died out. It wasn't
Uh,
the graphics; it
First
had to be
one on the
something else.
scene, it had the DVD player, which was like a really big thing at the time. Like DVD was huge. The fact that this
Oh
PS2
yeah,
functioned as a DVD player was like, hey, we can do that. So you're inclined to get it, which means you're inclined to buy their games, which means they have a really big game library. It was like almost like a self fulfillment sort of type of thing versus like GameCube came in like around the same time. I think like a year later. It's better. It's literally better than the PS2 in almost every way. It's like the stronger system, and it just fails because, well, you don't have this one feature that we don't like, and your library is very small. So I'm just gonna keep playing the PlayStation. And then Xbox comes out, and it's like, well, already got the PS2, so yeah.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. I don't think that people would be like will be in a hurry to buy a system just because of one single game.
Yeah, you even said it
Um,
yourself. I'm not going to buy a PS4 just to play Bloodborne. So if you take that logic, why would I make a
oh
super
no,
powerful Nintendo hardware just to play Zelda? I'm not gonna buy this system just to play a thing. Like I need a reason. It
I need
has to do
more.
something.
Yeah,
It's gotta do
exactly.
something
So
else.
at that point, what will distinguish games would mostly be like gameplay and narrative. Gameplay first, narrative second, in my opinion. But I could be wrong.
Narrative is
Uh,
just like irrelevant, honestly.
well, if it is such an irrelevant
I think it's
thing,
like they
why did
choose.
The Last of Us was so good and sold because of the narrative, not because of the gameplay, because gameplay sucks. And The Last of Us 2 is worse. And the game still sold a lot and because of the narrative. I had a cousin of mine that, oh, it's my favorite game. And I asked her
They
why.
probably
Oh,
don't game.
because yeah, I
It's
mean
an
she plays
audience. That's a niche. Like that's just
exact so
people who
because
want
oh
to.
I love the narrative and it make me cry and I the story, you know, I'm like,
Yeah, it's
okay,
it's an audience, it's a niche. It's people
okay,
who want to like I feel like I want to play something, but I also don't. Like I don't want to have to like master mechanics. I don't want to be told no. I don't want to have to learn
yeah.
quarter circle back, front, forward to win the fight. I don't want to have to think about anything. I just want to like watch these people, bond with the characters, and then like, oh, here's the people over there, shoot them. Okay, I did it, Sakurai. They're
Yeah.
dead. Okay, now go over here. Now the rest of the stuff is happening. Yeah, like that. That's a niche. It's like there's a niche for mobile games. There's going to be a niche for just can you tell a story with the game. There's but instead of being treated like the niche, it's being treated like no, this is just what a game should be. Versus like no, that's just one of
Okay,
the things a game can do.
let's go back to your nemesis, Shadow.
Shadow's not the
So
nemesis. 2013 is the
I mean,
nemesis.
okay, 2013, but you see what I mean? Like, the focus was mostly on narrative, and Lara Croft Tomb Raider is not a niche.
Yeah, it
Is it
is.
a niche market?
Absolutely.
Is it?
Yeah,
Is it? Is it?
Tomb
Is
Raider's not
I
like
would say
I think
so.
it's very
it?
weirdly
Sold a
popular in
lot.
Europe. I think there's a reason most of you are European, and that's because like Europeans
Exactly. Like
like Lara
Europe,
Croft. But over
like
here, like we don't give a fuck. It's just like Tomb there's there's another Lara
yeah,
Croft game, whatever. No one
but
over
over
here is going to
here,
be on Tomb Raider's dick like that. I guarantee
yeah,
you.
but over here, like Europe is big, and over here, the game really like it is a, like
And it's not even
Uh,
all of
um,
Europe. It's just like for some reason, just like a niche of
Testament.
Europe just really likes Lara Croft, and that's just
I
what it
think all
is.
of Europe. I think all of Europe mostly.
Definitely, I
but
would
but
definitely say a niche.
but yeah, I wouldn't consider it a niche myself because of the how I grew up, and like you said, in Europe, it really is a big thing.
So
It
because
really
of my
was a big
anecdotal
thing.
experience, it is therefore not niche.
No. Europe, the whole of Europe is not my just my anecdotal
You're not
experience.
the
You
whole of
have to say
Europe.
like, I mean, I'm not the whole Europe, but imagine that is to say that the NES didn't sell as well like Nintendo. Nintendo wasn't big in Europe for a long time, and the main market was the USA. So you can make those statements. That doesn't mean it's a niche thing. So why is it? So was it a niche?
No,
Nintendo
I just believe it's
selling
more
in.
popular in Europe. However, like it's it is nowhere near comparable to like Mario in America. Like these two things are not comparable. It's just like there is like a larger subset of people in Europe who like Lara Croft over Americans and over the Japanese. It is the largest of its markets, but by no
What
means
about
is it a like huge market.
yeah, what about Sonic?
Why is it always so is it just Elden Ring and Sonic?
Sonic.
Is this it? Is this the two
No, I just
that were
no because I mean we should like transition like 2D to 3D. That's one of the games that went like Mario and many others that made a transition from 2D to 3D, and was that beneficial to those games? Like, but Lara Croft like Tomb Raider was always 3D, so it doesn't even matter in terms of
it's like
but
the poster
in
child
terms
for this, honestly,
yeah, but in terms
for this
of
discussion.
graphics or narrative, like the later games, like Jesus Christ,
Later games of what? Like, wait, what series are we talking about now?
Tomb Raider, like
Oh,
no,
okay.
yeah, no, just no.
Because like Underworld looks really good. And I
Oh
also
God,
think
I
it
love
plays really
Underworld.
good. So like yeah, there's by no means do these two things have to be mutually exclusive. The game can look good and also play good.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree. But in terms of like 2D to 3D, so do we think that who benefited the most? Like which game, for example?
That's a good one. Who benefited the most? So they would have to have
What
existed in
type of games?
2D times. I would say the one that took the least amount of an L was probably just the straight up platformer.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah, like
It almost got to
Mario.
evolve in a
Mario.
sense.
Yeah, Mario.
Like it not only could be a platformer, now you could do like collectathons. Now you could change the nature of which you could like Metroidvania even more in a
Mm,
sense. Like that third dimension really just like add a layer. And when you do it right, it works very, very good. But then the drawback would be for the time, Sonic especially, is well, we can't have as many levels. Like do you remember Super Mario World and how there were hundreds of levels because that was just easy to do? Well, now you get like here's like 16. I'm sorry. Like that's what you get. So, in response to that, they all almost had to like try to find a way to address the fact that we can't do exactly what we did before. So, like things becoming collectathons was definitely like a good response to just reuse like the same areas. And then Sonic just took
mm,
the biggest L because like his whole thing is like, yeah, he goes super fast. He needs really, really big levels. They need a lot of complex stuff happening.
yeah.
And you can only make so many of them to like fit in your game. So like he just took the biggest L for the longest time until we got to
Oh my
like
god.
pretty much yeah, like this game right here, even like this is when they pretty much got the Sonic goes fast correct. And then we're still like, yeah, we can't just keep having so many levels. We're so restricted on what
Mm,
we can do. So we have to figure out how do we get the most bang for the like our buck out of these assets. They really could have gone the colors route, just like take the same shit and like make more levels, but they just chose not to. I guess they thought the game wouldn't be long enough. Probably some
hmm.
internal
Well,
strife there,
If
but yeah.
it's crazy seeing how Sonic has evolved, because the big thing is that from the 2D 3D jump for Sonic, it was Sonic Adventure. Okay, I remember playing that back on game like release day and having a good time with it, because the only two characters that seemed to like kind of follow the formula of Let's Go Fast was Sonic and Tails, because Tails was all about races in Adventure 1 until they made him like a really slow gimmicky robot in 2. But
Hmm.
like 1, it was just like, yeah, go fast. That kind of hit the formula for it just in the right way. But the problem with it is that you had to also deal with all these camera angle changes. You also had to deal with Sonic falling through the fucking floor because, haha, we haven't, bug tested everything just yet. We're just trying to get the Dreamcast out, god damn it.
uh,
And so you have that happening as well too. But I want to say that Sonic, he did take the biggest L's when it came to trying to get 3D games. Like, we're looking at Frontiers right now. Frontiers is definitely like one of those games that figured out, like, oh, our core concept is let's go fast, but how can we make it go fast and also still be a good game?
Exactly. Like you said, because there are a lot of complex stats, like complex things happening. The game, the levels have to be bigger, like because let's go fast. You have to like go a long distance, right? So you have all those things to consider. But
I
did
mean, what else
like
does Sonic do?
yeah, exactly. It's just it's what he does. Gotta go fast. So
literally why he doesn't exist in Gen 5, because like you just physically could not make this work. Like this system literally just cannot have any of this shit, like going from 2D to 3D. And I don't think they wanted to make like another 2D game, that when like 3D was the big thing. They literally had to sit out a generation just to even get it off the ground. And then
Well,
that's
they went back. Oh, go ahead.
and like I think that's like why like Sonic's cast of friends like also came to prominence. It's just because like they were like a means to an end. Like we really gotta like figure out how to expand the gameplay. Well, if it can't be Sonic, let's have Knuckles looking for the buried treasure in Iraq. Let's have Amy walking around. Let's have Big the Cat fishing. Fuck, just fuck it. Just put it in there. Let's have like you have a little chow garden. You can raise them. Like look at all this crazy shit you can do with Sonic. Yeah, I'm like, but then as the technology goes up and up and up, now it's like, hey, we can literally just make the Sonic game again, guys. It only took like a fucking 3 decades, but we got it. We can do it again,
Yay,
guys. We
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 got it.
can
We got
here
it.
here here
Sega's back on the menu.
Sonic in a level and then Sonic run fast. Like that's what you got. Yep, that's it. Give me that. Here you go. Have fun. And
Because
that's where we
yeah,
are.
I mean most platforms that ran on 2D, like I think benefited with the transition, and even those games that were like immediately launched in 3D, like Crash Bandicoot or something like that, even though the graphics weren't amazing, but
At that point
it,
in
it
time, they were
was
pretty good.
yeah, they were pretty good, but the game was fun. I mean, I honestly I couldn't care less about the if the graphics were amazing or not, but the game was fun. It was entertaining. But yeah, like I said, it wouldn't work for Sonic because Sonic is a completely different character. He has by his own measures, like his own characteristics, like he needs to go fast, and there simply wasn't a way to build levels around that. And I completely agree that Sonic took an L after the 2D games, and
Took
I
many
don't
L's.
think that
Let's be real.
yeah,
He took
many L's. Okay,
It did.
did it manage to recover? Is there a game, a 3D game, a Sonic 3D game that really captures the essence of what
you're
Sonic
looking
should
at it.
be, like
Yeah,
Frontiers?
Frontiers.
Okay.
It's like all
That's like the
like
closest thing.
they got to put all their concepts that they've been like slowly adding. Like they had like Adventure had like the whole hub world thing. That's when it came in. But then you were just like sort of talking to Nikki from accounting trying to figure out why this guy didn't want to date her. So he had to lead her to the pool at 3 a.m. to watch
Oh
Sonic
my
Sat
god.
AM or some shit. And just weird shit like that. And now the overworld and Frontiers is like, okay, speed run the overworld and try to get the shit as fast as you can. And I'm like, hey, that's great. It's like a 3D level and you just like run through. So like that's
Cool.
just core gameplay in the hub world. Got it. And then you have like these little stages. We can have 2D dedicated stages. Got it. Hey, we have 3D dedicated stages. Like we don't do like the 2D to 3D shit. It's just all 3D. And you're like, hey, this is good. We've done it. You got your
Okay.
little challenge levels. The overworld is focused around moving fast. Everything is just focused around like run fast, go fast, do it fast.
Okay,
It's a
but
good
when
start.
did Frontiers came out?
What was it?
Come
I would
out?
20
say 2 years ago.
couple years now, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 years.
So, if they got the formula right, do you think that they will be able to like? Is it that easy to replicate? Won't it become stale?
Not if they
Like
don't Call of Duty
how?
it. If you don't do it year in, year out, you start making like you're seeing how people right now like they're breaking these levels because they kept adding mechanics that were not intended in the base game. So now people are just sort of able to blitz them. So I would say now the next step is can we incorporate all these speed mechanics and make the levels incorporate them better?
Hmm.
It would be like the next step. Like I
Okay.
want better 3D stages. I still think the 3D stages are probably the biggest lacking point. I want big challenge courses purely in 3D, no 2D bullshit, wide maps. Can that's still like the thing Sonic needs to get working in full. Yeah, so here's a 3D stage. There's not going to be any camera shifting. So let's just but he's probably just going to break it
Probably.
by doing something that's not intended to happen. Yep, let's see. Yep, you're just going to flip that.
Yep.
You're going to fly by.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That. Okay.
And it's done. That's it.
I would
Damn.
say Sonic kind of went in some right directions. Like we were saying, he did take many L's. Like he ate a whole big bowl of L's for breakfast. Um, so you have to think they tried to experiment as much as possible outside of Sonic Go Fast.
Oh, they did.
Especially with like different games. Like I want to say in the right directions, you had like colors and you had generations, but they also kept in those 2D side scrolling kind of levels where it wasn't fully 3D. You know what I'm saying, right?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Where
exactly.
like some sections were just like the 2D like scrolling levels and it was just like, "Oh, okay." But we already know that that works. Like what can we do to make a 3D environment run well? And you get things like Frontiers that comes out and it's in much of a better step of direction. Oh god, Shadow the Hedgehog is done.
So we experimented. I mean, yeah, like, and now here's Pow World, where it's like, hey, let's get Pokemon guns, and you're like, nigga, that is the stupidest shit I've ever heard you say, and it turns out it's like it's brilliant.
It's brilliant. Yeah.
You
It
think
turns
like
out a lot
maybe
of people.
Sonic characters with guns? Like, what if it did work? What?
I mean, I
Uh,
cannot blame them for trying because I do believe that as artists, like or they we need to push the boundaries of imagination, and I think that they were trying to create something different. Didn't work. Okay, cool, but it would have cost it could have cost them a lot. Like Sonic could have been dead with these types of games and
he
not
really
make
should
a
be,
comeback.
for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, and not make a comeback,
Should
but
be.
yeah, but like we discussed, like Sonic is it's in itself the character, like it's it's epic. But uh, even though the games, most games like 3D games are suck, I kind of see that they wanted to push the limits and make something different. I don't blame them for that, but it didn't work. And they just have to recognize that it didn't work and try to do better next time, or I don't know. That's just my opinion, because if you don't try something different, you never know if it's going to work or not, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
that is true. Experimentation. I'll give Sega that, but it also costed Sega their fucking company and to go to their rivals Nintendo.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's what I yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Right now you're looking
Genesis
at
does.
It could look, like it could come at a high price, a high cost, but if it goes well, it could be brilliant and revolutionary, you know?
Yeah, so you're looking at a
So,
comp you're looking at a pretty much at a Sonic inspired game right now called Spark the Jester. And I think they've
Yeah.
taken a better step in the right direction for like here is a purely 3D go fast level. There is no camera cuts. Look, guys, it could be done. And it absolutely can be done. Like there's a lot going on. The level is long. There's no side scrolling. It's purely just this is all 3D and it's going just fine.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I get what you
Independent
say,
game
but
too. Like it's like we don't need millions of dollars, guys. Like we can literally just make a 3D platform game. We have the technology and strength to do it, and we
yeah, at this
absolutely
point,
do.
yeah, at this point, exactly. I completely agree with that. Well, not me
Yeah.
because I understand nothing about these things.
I would say that the formula can work. It's just that people have to be able to actually, experiment with the levels itself and actually remember the core concept of what your character is,
Mm-hmm.
and not try and like think out of the box like, oh, let's put guns in our game, or let's go ahead and have hedgehogs running around fishing and shit like that. It's like you have to see what works and doesn't work, like we were saying, like the experimentation. But at a certain point, after taking so many fucking L's, when do you
Yeah.
just kind of just say, all right, I'm fucking up somewhere. Where do I fix this?
Yeah, I can understand what you're saying because like if this game with like the new the how's it Pal World?
Power World, yeah.
Power World.
Yeah. So like Stat was saying, oh yeah, let's give Pokemon guns. And let's see how that goes. Look, it went well, but if it didn't, I'm not sure that the company would insist on making the same thing again because oh let's see if this time it catches up. No, if it doesn't work, move on. Just but I get what what you're saying, like Sonic games tried maybe a little bit too hard, too much to be innovative, innovative. But
And
and
again, I would
they
say part of that is necessity because there is still that we can't make a pure Sonic game. The system just can't do it. We can only
mm,
like which, like, I even think that even that's a lie. Like, if Colors was over here throwing out like stage after stage after stage, I just don't. Maybe just there was part of a belief that they just didn't think it would catch on. If we just have like samey looking environments with 6 acts, they probably were just like, yeah, we're gonna have to do something else to stretch out this gameplay because we literally just cannot, guys. We can't just do it.
So
So
Sonic fights a Dark Souls
yeah,
boss.
let's
finally,
just have
exactly. I was
Sonic
thinking the
fight the
same.
Dark Souls boss. Why not?
Why is he fighting a dragon?
Because he
Because we
just
had to try something new,
he
damn
just
it.
is like why not?
Cordyceps, run!
I don't
Oh
know.
god, that was amazing. Okay, so but besides platforming, like what other games would you say that benefited the most with the transition? I can definitely think of an example like GTA. I remember playing the first two and like the top
Yeah,
down
the top
view
down.
and the little the little geometry that symbolized your character and
So
like
sandbox
you could
games in a sense, yeah, like sandbox games,
yeah, sandbox
absolutely.
game.
That's a
Yeah,
W.
and then came like GTA 3D and like what the hell? Like how for how when was GTA 5 launched? Like fuck ton of years ago?
2012, 2013, something. I don't know.
Yeah, like 10 years. 10 years to another GTA. Apparently GTA 6 is going to come out this year.
Nope.
I'm not
God
sure or
no. That's not until like
that
26 or something.
okay, okay. But still, you see how many years and that game still goes. And even the multiplayer, like I don't think many people play the single player, the stories, but still that the multiplayer, you still see a lot of people in lobbies, and like that game really benefited from a transition from 2D to 3D. uh and it probably had to do with the possibility of attributing like different personalities to characters and all that, because how could you do that with a little geometry thing, like a little circle, like top down view? You can see anything. Like, okay, I know that I have to do some missions, and I have to escape the police, and maybe um, kill a few little old ladies on the way. And but um yeah, that was it. That was a game. um and then the transition changed it all, and like, yeah. So
They also had to sit out a generation though. Like they couldn't just come in right at Gen 5. They had to pretty much wait till system was strong enough to facilitate that. And then
mm.
it only stands to get better as like the system gets stronger, like systems do get stronger. We are able to emulate real life a little bit more. Did we have like a was survival horror a concept in 2D? I can't really think like off the top of my
Yeah.
head a game that
Not in the traditional sense. One game that kind of spawned out some of the survival horror and everything. You have to think of the RPG classic that was made by the same people that made Resident Evil, Sweet Home.
I thought that was
Don't know
3D.
that.
No, Sweet
Hold
Home was
on.
2D. It was on the NES.
It's been so
Oh,
long since I've like looked into that game, and yep, here it is. Sweet Home NES. I just want to see like what it was.
But it was a RPG mechanics where people could permadie. It was an environment that was built around where you had no like rests. You couldn't just like go to an inn and heal yourself. You had to use whatever items you had, and if you're fucked, you're fucked. That's it. And you could finish the game with like one or two characters, and all your other characters die, and you get one of the shitty endings.
oh.
Yeah,
Hmm.
like 2D survival horror existed. It was just in different formats of how it worked.
Yeah, I think that also took a dub, like right off, especially like right off the bat. Like we didn't have to wait a generation or two. Just having smaller
Even the
environments.
door transitions are there.
Eh,
Nice.
honestly, yeah, probably like one of the biggest W's because like they didn't really have to like innovate too much. It's yeah, you're cramped in a small environment. These systems can only make small environments. We have to get the most bang out of our buck. Like almost hand in hand, I'd say. It's just seamless.
So horror style games,
Yeah,
platforming, like
platforming
in the
little bit of a no because they had to like they had to incorporate like that collectathon thing. They couldn't just be like a pure here's a level of platforming, here's a level of
mm,
platforming, more and more and
yeah.
more. Like they had to like kind of adapt, but the adaptation wasn't, it didn't harm them as much. Horror games
We
like
had some
this.
innovative games. Some innovative games like Jack and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, and stuff like that were platformers, but also innovated shooting mechanics as well too.
Oh.
Yeah, platforms really like they just got to like start incorporating like other shit. Like, hey, Spyro the Dragon, he's on a skateboard now. Bet. Do a kickflip. And that's it.
Yeah, but so it like, can you pinpoint like one single genre of games that benefited the most with the transition?
Let's see. We covered platformers, covered horror. I think if horror was consistent, as in the quality didn't have to degrade or evolve, I would say racing games probably got the biggest W that I can think of
Oh,
because
yeah.
going from 2D and having to like approximate the controls felt like shit. Let's be like racing games
Oh,
in 2D
jeez.
feel like shit. Like they're just bad. Man,
They were
Oh yeah, one hundred
terrible.
percent.
They were terrible.
like in top down view, what the fuck is this? Like things popping into frame, like what is this? And then just like going to 3D, playing like the Mario Karts for the first time, playing like Cruise
Thank
in
you.
USA for the first time, and you're like, yep, this is it. Like this, and it perfectly in line with the system's capabilities. Could run on Gen 5 systems. Have you fucking played Star Wars Episode 1 Pod Racing? Shit is fire. Shit is
No, I
incredible.
haven't.
Yep,
But
I
I
did.
remember Yeah, I remember going to arcades in the 90s, and that, like, when the Gran Turismo came out, like, and you had like those car things that you could jump in and play the game while the game was playing, and those were the first 3D racing games that I remember. 2D, not just being top down. I remember 2D racing games that were that had a frontal uh, point of view, but everything was flat. So it was the same thing. It wasn't 3D, like, so it was so weird. And the controls, yeah, like shit. But then came like arcade games. I think that first. Uh, uh, okay, one title. Can you think of one title that benefit like that
Like, wait, in what genre?
that's racing that sticks out the most?
Mario Kart.
What do you mean? Like, that started off in 2D, you mean?
Yeah, that started off in 2D and then transitioned to 3D.
Yeah, like Mario Kart, F-Zero, just the two big ones.
Yeah.
I'm not really familiar with too many like 2D racing games because I just tended to
Mm.
hate them because they were just very. Why are you even trying to do this? Honestly, would be the question I would ask.
Well,
And
some
then yeah,
2D racing games, I know that they only had like one-offs. They never became like big franchises because they
hmm
were just like, we have this one game, like Rad Racer on NES. I've never seen Rad Racer 2 or Rad Racer 3, The Revengeance.
Oh, Rad Racer. Let's see, like that's a rad name.
and
Yeah,
then you have
and that was a
perf
2D racer.
the perfect 3D game.
But yeah, Racers big, just overall dub. Honestly, just nothing but net positive going to the third dimension with them.
I agree.
Can we think of an example of genre or a game or a series of games that like really went down after transitioning to 3D? 'Cause I can't think of any.
Mm, let's see. I know like those little point and clicks, which have just sort of fallen way to the niche side because like just by their very nature, it's just sort of you're going around in 2D space. So like why aren't you playing a game where you explore naturally at this point? Like the Miss type genre games of the world. Like those
Mm.
basically just became something completely different. Like those just completely died off.
Yeah, where you could
Yeah,
kind of just move your character around in a 3D space versus I have to point and click and move my character over here and use
yeah,
different button commands.
Yeah, like that's just completely. I think the appeal of that was like, hey, 3D games aren't out, and so this is like pseudo 3D almost, to
yeah,
where you
yeah,
could
yeah.
look at like you can look at more detailed environments this way, but we can't exactly render them, so you just sort of click out. It was like their best approximation of 3D at the time, but then once you have 3D, it's just yeah, why aren't we just making a 3D game at this
Yeah,
point?
I don't think you can go back. There are certain um developments like that once implemented, we can't really go back. But Midnight Mechanic is people say that Fallout 3 was a bad transition to 3D.
That's
I'm
just
not
Fallout
familiar with
fans.
Fallout
Fallout 3 is
3.
great.
Hmm. I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
I'm not a familiar with that game. So could you expand on that?
But then again, like I'm also a person that hasn't played the. I think we're the whole thing I'm seeing with that whole Fallout argument is that like it doesn't carry on in the same spirit, and Bethesda sort of just made it more like Morrowind with guns. But like the
Yeah.
game itself is like it's fine. It's
Yeah, I
just
think it's a great game.
Tomb
it's that
Raider.
nuts and
Wait.
bolts kind of thing where like if you played Banjo Kazooie and Tooie and then you play nuts and bolts, you're gonna be like, what the fuck is this? This isn't Banjo. But then Nuts and Bolts on its own, I would say like it's fine. It's just a little game where you can just build shit, try to solve problems by building shit, a lot of little stuff to do it. Yeah, like in an isolated sense of like it's on its own as a game, it's fun. But if you put the
It
name
was like the
Banjo on it,
Minecraft of Banjo Kazooie.
yeah, but then if you put like the name Banjo on it, you're gonna make people hate it because they're gonna be like, I want to play this instead. So I think that's what Fallout 3 sort of happened Or like that's what
Mm,
happened to it to not the same degree, but like it happened to some degree. And so people are just like, no, but game itself,
it,
no, it's fun.
yeah. But like, yeah, Tomb Raider Midnight. Tomb Raider was always 3D. Like, what are you talking about? I mean, oh, okay, on the Game Boy Color.
Mm, yeah, but
But
that's
I
going
think
from 3D to 2D, honestly.
that
Like that's like a
exactly
reverse
that's
transition
a
almost.
reverse,
That's a demake.
exactly, because the port had to be like, yeah, the Game Boy Color could only like you had to like, so yeah, 3D to 2D because Tomb Raider was always 3D um from the get-go. So uh I don't think, yeah, besides that, I don't think any game like and it's one of those things that once the door is open, like it's impossible to go back and to create unless you have a really original concept, and that maybe going vintage, could you say, in terms of gaming history, making a really cool game in 2D, but that would be something like, yeah, it wouldn't be
I mean,
like
aren't there
something.
like modern kind of like Castlevania, Metroid S games that come out? Oh, I'm sure there have been, like in the indie scene
Yeah,
at least. Like there's plenty
yeah,
of those.
exactly. But they don't cost like 70 euros or $100.
Yeah,
You know what I mean. So
simple little
uh
games.
exactly. So, but there's still a niche market for that, and I think that people still appreciate some games. And if you have an original idea, that could go. But I think, like you said, and we tend to go more and more towards realism, and once that door was opened, there is no closing it, and I think that there is no turning back in terms of like graphics, in terms of 3D. I think um although some games may have suffered because they were mainly built on a 2D platform, and transitioning was kind of hard, like with Sonic, until they got it like right. But for other games, Mario, I don't think with Mario there was such a difficult task, because Mario was not a character that was meant to, like I said, go fast. You had other options. You had to you had enemies. You had like to explore. You had to take your time in some platforming sequences. So, uh, yeah, I think it depends on the game, but I don't think.
Well, we talk about a lot of the bad games that transitioned from 2D to 3D and had their hiccups. I'd say probably like if we're talking about like good games that kind of broke from their genre of what their 2D game was, I'd say perfect example would be Metroid Prime because it's no
Oh,
longer a side scroller at that point. It's now
Mhm.
became a or not even the side scroller. Well, technically side scroller. It's no
Yeah.
longer a side scroller at that point. It's became its own thing where it's in its own first person view and third person mechanics as well too, but it still keeps its core identity of its original counterparts.
Mm, that's an interesting
I'd
it
say
point.
literally
that's one of
is.
the biggest W's.
And fully agree. Yeah, that's literally just the same game, but in 3D, honestly. It's just like now you get to explore a 3D space instead of just left, right, up, or down, going through doors. Now it's just like pick a direction in 3D space and then go through a door. Hope your GameCube loads it fast enough. Stand there for a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Like 3D opened the world, like to all of that, like the verticality of levels, like the level is big enough, or it brought many things, and yeah, I completely agree with your point, Shippo. It's an interest. Yeah, it was a good take.
yeah. I would say that some games they improved upon themselves, jumping from 2D to 3D. We were talking about Mario. We were talking about Metroid. A lot of Nintendo franchises actually really benefited. It seemed. Some genres that I can think of probably didn't really improve that much, besides maybe it's storytelling through environmentalism, or
That,
it's
yeah.
I'd probably say RPGs. RPGs kind of just still kept their same core mechanics. It was just menu based, and it kind of just still stuck. Like I always go back to thinking about Final Fantasies. I could still play the 2D Final Fantasies because they still engage me, but when I look at the newer ones and I think of like not like the newest ones where it's like action RPGs, but like still the same or text-based menu versions of games, I could still look at those and I'm just like, yeah, I could see that through the environmental storytelling and seeing the new and like improved graphics and backdrops and everything of the sort, it kind of helped it in a way, but it didn't really change anything gameplay wise.
Okay.
So more or
It
less,
was just
it's consistent, but like you get to improve because environmental storytelling, more NPCs, more just like passive things you could do. That's just an advantage of being by virtue of being on like newer hardware. You just get to do more
Yeah,
of the
you have
content.
more opportunity to do things, but you
yeah.
still have the same core game.
So basically, what you're saying, it was just like a costume, like a costume change, like so the gameplay stayed the same. So, but
Oh, costume changes are a thing. Oh,
no, no, no,
absolutely.
no, no. I was
Hell
going to
yeah,
say
baby.
something, but I was thinking in Portuguese. God, I forgot.
What's the
So
word?
basically, it was just like oh god, because cosmetic change, that was what I was intending to say. So those games you were talking about, Final Fantasy, between the 2Ds and the first 3D games, so they maintained the same gameplay, but the change was merely cosmetic, right? That's what I understood uh from your argument.
Yeah, well, the thing is, though, is going back to Final Fantasy itself, you have Final Fantasy VI on Super Nintendo. Looks really good, tells its environment because it's on Super Nintendo. So you have more opportunity than what you could do with NES. Now, we jump all the way to the third dimension with Final Fantasy VII. 7 comes out, there's FMVs, there's different types of music. Like, it's MIDI, but it's still like leaps and bounds above what the Super Nintendo could produce, but
Mm,
it's still the same game at the very end, is that it's still text-based menus and just selecting and choosing, versus whereas you couldn't show like as much as you could or have as much of the game as you would want on a cartridge based system. So I
yes.
would say that not a lot changed for the game, it was just more of it was there.
Okay, I got you. So, and it did not influence gameplay. So it was engaging at the same time, and it maintained the same level of quality when it comes to gameplay. That's what I. So it didn't lose quality. It did not. It was not a bad transition, right?
I would say it wasn't a bad transition,
Okay,
it was just here we go. We
adding,
have better graphics. And
adding.
I think that's
Okay,
what happened, is that RPGs kind of fizzled out and it became action RPGs more because you
okay,
have more engagement at that point.
Yep,
okay.
I agree
So
with that.
yeah, I was thinking that. So you're mentioning that with, like, with Final Fantasy, so with the advancement of hardware and graphics and all of that, so, and the transition to 3D, so all of that was a plus, was a positive, because it just added to the game. It did not change the core of the game. But then you have certain series and franchises that graphics, like the investment in graphics and storytelling was such that it completely changed the core of the game and the character. And we all know what the fuck I'm talking about, like
You're talking about
Lino.
Tomb Raider.
Exactly, like I'll never let that
Talking
go.
about Tomb Raider.
I'll never let that go. Jeez, no, no, no. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't care if it's real. Like, give me classic Tomb Raider any day of the week, and I'll play it
Is the
over.
voice
Like,
actor for Jonah like a person I can contact? Like, can I just like unironically just like find this guy and just like put him here?
Jonah,
Not
Jonah.
Lara,
Oh
like
my god.
fuck her, but like Jonah, like yeah, like Jonah seems like a chill. He'd be like a chill dude, just like sort of
Oh
like
my
have on
god. Jesus.
rock
So
with.
that's the thing, that graphics did not add to the game. They completely changed the core of the game, and that's why so many uh
No, when you're saying
and
graphics, okay, what exactly do you mean by this? Are you just talking about purely visuals? Because
yeah, purely visual. So they invested so much, and you can see, and even on your in your reviews, you there's a section where you can hear the developers talking about, oh, the feathers and the detail of
oh, when
no,
they're
who gives
walking
a
through the
fuck.
crowd and that they
Yeah,
took
yeah, like
forever to
who
make sure
gives a
like no
yeah.
feathers contacted somebody else's face
and
and
then
that it
and then
doesn't and then it literally does go through somebody's face and it's like, well, time well spent there, fucko.
yeah, yeah, and that was like yeah, unskippable cutscene. None, and on top of that, so like, why waste so much time, so much money, so much of your
Time and effort to make this
capacity,
bullshit
yeah, and
run.
time and
Yeah.
effort to make this bullshit. Like, who gives a fuck? Sorry, like who gives a shit? I don't. No one cares. No one cares if the feather has like 7 billion pixels per, like, no, because ultimately the final product sucked, and it changed completely that, like, the gameplay and the core of the franchise, the whole franchise. That's why, for example, most of the original Lara Croft fans are so excited for this
To
remaster
play the
that
same thing
that's
that you've already played, but slightly better,
but
yes.
yeah, but it's still better than these last three. I'm sorry, that's still better. Like, even the originals, even the 1996 original is still better than the 2013. I don't give a
I
like.
really
Oh,
think
but
it could
it's
be
the
like its own thing, to be
hmm.
honest. Like if you really took like what it was, like so we have this girl that uses guns and also is like very acrobatic. Like that could be a really interesting combat system if we actually like invested into that a little bit more. Of just like someone who uses mobility and guns. Like that if we were good at our job, we would be saying, how do we make this like a just a fun game by itself? Just like moving around and shooting in like a weird
Yep.
way that just hasn't been done because this person's just like an acrobat, and then you just build from that instead of like, well, Jonah is a cook and he's from New Zealand, and Sam is her Asian best friend, and Dr.
Who
Whitman
doesn't return?
wrote season 5 of The Fairly Odd Parents, and he's just sort of out of work, so he's just kind of here to get his money back.
Yeah. Well, speaking about Tomb Raider as well too, Hewitt brought up a good point as well too. Tomb Raider's movement mechanics were based on 2D's Prince of Persia. I would say that's another series that did really well
Oh
jumping from
yeah.
2D to 3D. Prince of
Yes,
Persia definitely benefited from it.
I agree.
Yep. But like that falls into like the platformer again,
Mm.
because like
Yeah, it
think
does.
about how limited you are. Like in a 2D space, you really have to like go in an innovation. I could say like the most distinct 2D platformers are like Meat Boy, the one like where you're a janitor with like your dusting broom mechanics, which has like a really distinct movement, and then like most 2D platformers are in a sense they just feel like a version of Mario that had already done it. Versus
Yeah.
like in 3D, you could tweak so much more. Like we can be Just Cause, have like a fucking grapple hook that leads into a parachute, and just doing that on its own is like really fun. You can have your Prince of Persias, you can have Spider Mans, you can have
Yeah.
like you can just take you can have Sonics. You could do it fast, you could do it slow, you could just it's just that little addition of like that one dimension and just like the improved physics just has added so much to like allowing platformers to feel like their own distinct thing. And it could have been the same for
Oh, for
Lara. Like
sure.
it really could have been like, hey, let's keep running with this idea that she is like this gymnast, like she's this fucking psychopathic gymnast that likes to shoot. Saying like, let's just keep running with that. Let's just see where that goes. She could have been like, "Yep, there's a tiger. I'm gonna grapple its face shut and then pull it into the fire pit, and then let the fire pit kill it, and then scalp it, and then shoot the monkey." Like it could be
Like Yeah, for sure. Like did not care. Like, I'd rather have that psycho than oh my god, Jonah, I killed someone. Who gives a fuck? Like, I'm there. I'm here to play a game, not to watch you cry because I killed some. Like, what
Yeah,
the
but they're
hell?
here
And
to
like,
spread an agenda, and they're going to make damn
yeah, I
sure
know,
that's
and
going to
that's
happen.
the thing. That's the thing. Like, because of the woke agenda and the people, the infiltration within like the gaming industry with the oh my god, now we have to be inclusive and whatever the fuck it is, um. But yeah, that they really like destroyed the character, destroyed the core value of the game, so much so that we are anxious to play the same game that came out in 1996, but just with a new, just prettier. Yeah, just prettier. But
Now,
I,
I'll counter that argument because I think the stories of the newer Tomb Raiders are just poop. They're not that great.
ugh,
They ruined the character in my
yes,
opinion. But the thing is though is I feel like the movement became better over time as the games kept going. This is going off a little bit from the 2D 3D,
mm-hmm,
but because Tomb Raider it started out feeling tanky and feeling with its controls where it was just like, all right, you have to be really precise and you have to take
yes.
your time with it. Whereas like the newer games, they kind of incorporated those mechanics where movement was much more fluid.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. And I can definitely, for example, see that difference between like Tomb Raider One and Underworld. That for me to me
Exactly.
is what the last game of Tomb Raider that I consider to exist, because the other ones so but yeah, but
They
I
all have
the thing
strengths,
is the
honestly,
thing is the tanky controls were there for a reason. Like it had
to
they had
address
to.
a shortfall in the
Yeah,
aiming
Yeah.
system.
exactly. Exactly, in the game. But I definitely agree. Like the movement became much more fluid. Like I can definitely see the difference between the classic games and the last games that use another engine, and like really made a whole lot difference. And it was still Lara, it was still Tomb Raider, but the fluidity, it just made things more enjoyable. And to answer Midnight Mechanic, was GTA 3 a good translation to 3D? Yes.
Yeah, she mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, yeah, we've talked. I don't think he was here for that, but yeah. Um
Yeah,
Jeff.
classic Lara has like I still say the strongest platforming just by virtue of like there's basically no automation. Everything is like within the player's control, and you could have iterated
Yes.
that. Like pretty much the only thing you had to fix was just like the grid base, or like not the grid movement, like
Mm.
the tank movement. But like you can
Yeah,
absolutely
yeah,
have
yeah.
like a everything that happens to me is my fault type of situation, which is why I think people like the platforming. And then LAU adds the automation, it smooths it out,
Hmm.
it makes it fun to move around. But they're like there's less in your control. But I think it's probably
Yes.
like the nicest balance. And then with the newer ones, it's I think you got the shooting correct, but like most games do at this point. But then the
Yeah.
sacrifice was your platforming has weirdly gotten much worse than the one that came before. Like
I
everything
mean,
is like so automated to where like you can magnet hands yourself into like you
yeah.
these weird wide snap points. Everything is controlled. Things are triggering story events. Like it's too intertwined with other shit. And it's such a far
Yeah,
cry from
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
I
yeah.
can take a shortcut wherever I want to go to with the platforming because I'm good at the platforming. Now it's if I'm good at the platforming, I break the game because I didn't hit this little cutscene trigger point
Oh
or some shit.
yes, but that's a problem with the whole building of the game, because in the classics and even in Underworld, you would not soft lock yourself. You couldn't, even if even if you like like did the wrong thing, like, oh, because you didn't hit that certain point, you didn't trigger a cutscene. Like, that's the thing, and that's the problem with the overemphasis on graphics and storytelling and narrative that we discussed last week, 2 weeks ago. But that's what you lose with when with when the companies want to invest so much in talent and voicing and voice actress and but uh Jeff, yeah, I agree to a certain extent. I do really like the movement in Underworld, and I think like even with oh God, I love this level. Um,
Hmm.
um, like even yeah, there's a certain automation, but I think in the latter um, games were worse than this.
Yeah, even like in
Also,
this Underworld, sorry to cut you off, but like in this Underworld, like they added like an almost like Mario wall kick s thing, which like if you're
yes,
speed running, it's very situational. When like that should be the kind of thing where like if you're really creative, you could use this wall kick thing to just like
yep,
sort of skip platforming if you just know the level, like the type of thing
exactly.
that makes you feel like you're mastering the game, but like instead it itself is like very it's just very confined and restrained, and it's like damn, I could see like what the platforming could be with the style of game, and it just doesn't get to because of automation. And then the new
I
games just
mean,
make it so much worse than this one.
Yeah.
the new games took off platforming. I mean, come on, in a game with where tombs are optional, the freaking game is called Tomb Raider. Come on,
Nah.
come on now, no, no, no,
Oh my word.
no, my Laura.
So would you say that as the game's kind of improved off of going 2D to 3D, adding those new mechanics kind of added a new dimension, especially when it came to mastering the mechanics of the game?
Yeah, the skill ceiling is absolutely much higher.
I could agree on that.
And then doesn't that help also the speedrunning community, because there's also a niche community for that, you know, people that really like to explore glitches and try to like the beat the game in the fastest way possible, and oh look, I can jump here and like and I'll be there, I don't have to like walk
Yeah,
500 miles, and yeah,
and good
yeah, exactly,
platformers do that intentionally. They know, like, hey, if you
yep,
master these mechanics, you can actually take this kind of shortcut. And it's just like the type of thing they let you realize on your own. And that's what makes you feel like, damn, I'm getting
I have
better at this
control.
game. And it's just fun to go through versus just like, nope, you have to do this thing exactly to
Ugh.
this thing, exactly to this. And it's never going to change. Yeah, I can't tell the skill level of the person by just watching them, which I think is like still all that's like a telltale sign you have a good platformer. If you watch somebody and you just see like crazy movement and it's fluid and it works, like that's a good platformer.
Yes, yes. Oh god, I remember this one. Yeah, I have to put the two blocks and then go jump on the other, and then the thing, the grapple, and the thing, and then comes the Nick.
What a good guy. Can we get that voice actor on here? I wonder what he's up to.
I know
Why
you were
didn't
talking
you
about the
shoot him, Nick?
voice actor for Jonah earlier. Earl Balon is his name, and he does look like Tito from Rocket Power.
Fuck yeah,
Really?
dude. Like
Oh
can we just
god.
have this
He
guy?
looks like an ancient Hawaiian.
Okay,
Oh
hold
damn.
on. I need to find this dude. Okay, so what's his name?
Earl Balon, Baylon.
Bayl Earl Balon? Yo, bet. Like I just need to see you. Yep. Which is like kind of I hate that we've done that to where like the character has to look like the voice actor because retards, but honestly,
Yeah,
yeah, like
that's
if
retard,
this is
but
like the dude like yo, like are you just somebody I can just like chill with? Like
Got some of that Tomb Raider money?
I don't know why, but like yeah, he in the back. I just want to know. If
So Midnight
someone
Train.
has made a
Oh.
mod to where Jonah just you can swap Lara out with Jonah and you can just play as him, I think I would do it. I
oh
would probably
god.
enjoy the game far more if just like Jonah just took
so
over like the main character spot. I would.
so Mario 64 is a good platformer. I would say yes. I would say it innovated on top of its mechanics from Super Mario World all the way to 64 without the inclusion of Yoshi. I would say that it improved upon itself. It added new formulas for speedrunning, such as like wall kicks or other ways of movement. that just it felt fluid. The only bad side was that 3D was experimenting with camera angles, and camera was just not that good. Like a good example would be Mario Odyssey. Mario Odyssey is a damn good game. It is probably the best feeling Mario 3D platformer I can think of. I honestly love that game.
Okay, what about the top-down Tomb Raider games? What do you mean those
Temple of
Temple of
Osiris.
Osiris and
Yeah.
but they're 3D.
There,
They're
it's like
3D.
pseudo 3D. It's like that's like saying Kirby
It
64 is 3D. It's made in a 3D
I
style, but it adheres to like a 2D plane.
I mean,
Yep.
yeah, but I would consider that 3D. I would not
It's like
consider that
isometric
2D
almost.
because you yeah, but you still have like the three like you have the vertical and you have like you have to have the 3Ds you need three dimensions like the three
It's
axes, you know.
isometric.
But yeah, and then the 2001 Tomb Raider movie was the goat. Yeah, I mean Angelina, come on, Jesus. Oh, and he also said that Saint Andreas was the fix for GTA 3 because it was so broken. Yeah, but we were talking about like the transition. Did the transition benefit the game itself, like the franchise of GTA transitioning from 2D to 3D? That's mainly our topic. Like we've discussed Sonic, the transition, Mario, and other platformers, other genres of game. Like Shippo mentioned, Final Fantasy and all of those types of games. So it's not GTA 3 per se. I think it was the idea behind it. You know, the fact that they moved on to a different different perspective and then pushed the limits on what the game could be. And then of course there's always like imperfections with the first try, but like we've discussed, like most Sonic games, most Sonic 3D games are suck. So if you, in a franchise, if you have one game that's a little bit eh, I find that to be a net positive because like we've also discussed like GTA 5. It's a game with like what, 10 11 years, and it's going to last two more until GTA 6 comes out, and
We'll see what
it's
they do.
yeah. So
We'll see how this works out.
oh yeah, Jans mentioned the best perfect game, 3D perfect game, Bubsy.
Hopefully 3D Junior. There you go.
Bubsy 3D is the perfect 3D game. No, I'm just saying. What if Silent Hill was 2D? Would it still work as well?
It would just, I mean, if we have an example of, again, 2D horror, I mean, 2D games have been around longer. So, like, if this has already been figured out, then you just sort of do that same shit again.
I
It's
would
just,
say
you
instead of
can do a
2D
lot less.
games, you have like newer concepts for horror games being in 2D top down. I would say like something like Fear and Hunger.
Fear and Hunger, eh? Let's have a look at that one.
Hmm.
I've never heard of it.
Fear and Hunger is definitely some really decent Silent Hill esque vibes. It's really inspired upon a lot of horror games, but I would say that you could definitely make a 2D horror game work out. And it's made an RPG Maker of all things,
Huh?
but
Really?
definitely, yeah.
Yep, that looks classic as fuck.
Definitely. Jeez. Oh, yeah.
Nice. How did you hear about this one?
Oh, I heard about Fear and Hunger way before it started to get super big. It was one of those games that I was just like, oh, this is interesting to see if this is a actual like decent fucking RPG Maker game. And I was like, oh, okay, never mind. Because there's a lot of horrible shit that can happen in this game.
Oh,
You can get your limbs sliced off. You
what the
can, yeah, you can go through the whole game missing like an arm and a leg.
what?
You can have your eyeballs plucked out and go blind. You can,
Oh
yeah,
my
it's all kinds of shit can
god.
happen
How
in
does
this
that
game.
affect you, though? Because, like, I mean, obviously, you, the player, can still see. So, like, how does blindness affect
It
you?
does affect you. You're completely blind and in the fucking dark.
Oh,
Nice.
okay. I could that
Lone Survivor and Darkwood, yeah, I could see Darkwood definitely being a really good 2D esque Silent Hill top down horror.
Sunless Sea. To my yeah, I haven't heard of that. Sunless Sea.
So
Sunless
I guess the
Sunless Sea.
question to ask in the reverse is there something that is actually just better in 2D than 3D? Like, is there still something like 2D can just
Mm.
outshine 3D in?
I would say certain fighting games, but the thing is,
Oh,
though, is you
yeah.
have the
Mm,
introduction of Tekken and Virtua Fighter that introduced the 3D arena concept where you can move up and down.
Yeah.
But I would say fighting games definitely wouldn't have the biggest impact of going from 2D to 3D. And most fighting games now stick with the 2D aspect than anything.
which I mean, I would
Yeah.
say
Oh,
like yeah, there is still like a mix. Like there's some that utilize the third dimension, but like there still is like a no, we just sort of want to have this
yeah, yeah,
2D
yeah.
back and forth. Yeah,
I mean, which makes sense. Like how would you have like a 3D like fighting game? It would be if the cameras, if you're playing on one monitor, you have to have like the game like the characters in frame, like uh
but
with the same like how it's like the thing that comes to mind is watching a tennis game. The best perspective is from behind because you can see like the ball go from one point to another. If you're sitting on the sides, your head keeps having to turn to follow the ball. So if a 3D fighter would be somewhat like that, imagine camera changes and that would make like one player lose sight of their own character, and that's why I think that mostly they maintain
are you
that
trying to say
that
sports
three
games?
2D. The what?
Wait, are you saying like sports games or
No,
just
no,
tennis or?
fighting games. No, fighting
Oh,
games. Yeah, so fighting games, yeah, so they maintain that 2D aspect, even though that you can rotate on the arena and those things, but basically because it would be very hard to play a 3D game, a fighter 3D game with camera changes and all that. I
I mean, like you still have like the ones that people sleep on, like those Naruto fighting games, Dragon Ball Xenoverse fighting games. Like they are fighters.
Oh
It's
yeah,
just you play them differently. Like almost like that category where like it's like a behind view from your character, and both
Yeah,
characters are
okay.
looking at like they have like their own camera control in the sense like they get to just dictate what they're looking at, and the fighter still works. It's just
Yeah,
people
yeah.
will gravitate
Exactly, but
towards.
yeah, but that's why I was comparing it to tennis, because if you have one fixed view, it's much easier to follow the sport, I think that with fighting games, it's the same thing in theory. The same, if you maintain the same perspective on the character, it's much easier like to um control it, to make certain combos or movements, or it would be hard for, imagine you're seeing your character on the side, and then all of a sudden the camera shifts and you're seeing them from behind and then from up top, and like it would be complete like a mess, like because fighting games are meant to be extremely direct, like and if you're playing like um not one when you're playing online, but if you're playing with a friend at home, you could not have those types of camera changes, because then the other character would be obscured by your character, you know what I mean? I don't did I make my point clear enough, or
What is the
is,
point?
yeah. I was trying to figure out. I'm
the
guessing you're
point is
saying that it wouldn't work because of camera angles.
yeah, I think the perspective, like the 3D, like I think the my point is fighting games. I was agreeing with Shippo. Fighting games benefit more from more of those that 2D aspect, although they can have like 3D characteristics, but they benefit more from that 2D perspective. You have that fixed um um
I would
angle,
say
that
2D didn't
camera.
become irrelevant in that sense, like or not irrelevant. It's just like it's not so clearly better to have this concept in 3D. I mean, like yeah, you can
Yeah,
stylize the graphics in 3D, but like at its heart, it still is just like playing in 2D with like a 3D
yeah.
coding. in a
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, exactly.
So
Exactly.
like that's probably like the one that's held on to be like the most relevant in today versus like nowadays. It's like, yeah, I want like a 3D game. 2D games are just sort of for like a niche or an indie or just like a low key kind of game. Like it hasn't fallen to the wayside as hard.
I could definitely see that. I think it's also because it just makes it easier for people to kind of practice a lot more versus having the 3D environment, like with Tekken versus having the up and down forward movement. Whereas people, they can kind of just like whiff out combos and everything like that just by doing, hey, let me just sidestep versus knowing the mechanics of the game itself and knowing how characters work and how the back and forth like a tennis match goes with fighting games
Yeah.
versus on like being on a 2D playing field and versus being 3D.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I think it benefits the most. In terms of of genres, this is a category that I think that benefits the most with a kind of 2D appearance, although it's 3D, but it maintains certain aspects of the two-dimensional games.
So fires, any others?
Um,
I would say brawlers as well too, because one thing that was big was the 2D side scroller brawlers like Double Dragon, Fist, like Streets of Rage,
But wouldn't
things
that be
like that.
like didn't that just kind of transform into like the Devil May Cries and Bayonettas type deal where
Kind of. I would say a good example that jumped from the 2D to 3D would probably be like God Hand.
yeah, like God Hand, Mad World, your No More Heroes, your yeah, like those style of games. I guess that would be like the 3D equivalent.
Yeah, I would say probably the 2D to 3D probably jumped really well for those games as well too.
I guess I was asking like, is there any other genre that like 2D is better or like clearly, or
Um,
like if at all, like is there one that's like clearly better?
Probably shoot 'em ups.
Shoot 'em ups, eh?
hmm.
So like I guess the 3D equivalents would be like freaking what like Kid Icarus Uprising. What's that other one? That's on like on the N64. Sky, not Skies of Arcadia. I don't even know its
Sin and
name.
Punishment.
Sin and Punishment. Star Fox 64. I guess that would kind of fall into that. Uh, there's just like not. There's like not a lot in 3D. I don't know if that it necessarily means that like the shmup is better in 2D because like in the 3D space, like yeah, you do get like that extra layer of choice. Maybe you can have different altering paths that are better for you to like hide in the environment. I wouldn't say it's like necessarily like a net loss in that regard.
I wouldn't say it's a net loss, but I would probably say that in 2D you have a wider field of view versus having like 3D. Like if we're going back to the Star Fox example, Star Fox you kind of have one big fucking ship blocking a little bit of your screen. Um, and so having the top-down view would help with more significance with having like incoming enemies be able to be seen more. You could probably work with a little bit more on that aspect. Um, Versus whereas for the 3D parts of the shooters, like for Star Fox 64, you kind of have, I would say, not as much to work with. Like, what else can you do besides make it look pretty?
Make it look
And then
pretty.
like that could fall into like the Killer 7 territory to where you can actually give some more control to the shmup, but then the core gameplay is still the shmup itself to where you're exploring this area and then just like in several instances shit comes at you with like they just throw in like some more game elements in there. Could be like a way you could evolve it. I just think this is like one of those ones that there's just almost no interest in it. Like people haven't really been trying to evolve this style, and think
I
there's a
mean,
lot of
where could you
potential in
involve it
there.
though?
Yeah, I
And
mean,
then yeah,
yeah,
Killer 7, I would say like is probably like your most experimental with that style. Even though like it's very
Oh,
very limited, like it doesn't have like the whole bullet hell shit happening to you, but like I don't think there's a reason that you can't. Like this guy, he's walking on a field right now. He has enemies coming at him. Who's to say that you couldn't just have, hey, you're gonna get from point A to point B like a shmup, but
Mhm.
you get a wide map and you can choose whatever path you want. And these could be really varying paths, and then depending on what path you choose, you can even enter different vehicles and do like an underwater section, but that's a bullet hell. You can fly on this fucking Kickstarter campaign on the Nickelodeon blimp. That's a Nickelodeon thing, and then you come down on that. Like we're really just we can do a lot of stuff shit with this, and
I
we
mean,
haven't.
yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, and like I said, do we really? The question is like, I don't think we ever we're ever going to go back into a 2D two-dimensional type of games ever. For example, you were talking about Zelda. Um, After the first 3D one coming out, like, do you think that is there a
They
possibility for
exist in
Nintendo?
tandem because like Link
Yeah,
Between Worlds
Link
has come
Between
out,
Worlds.
and then more recently like a Link's Awakening remaster has come out. Like they're almost just like two distinct different styles at this point, and they're both perfectly
Exactly. Yeah,
valid.
that's what I was asking. So, do you think that there's space to certain games? Um,
Absolutely. The question I was just asking is like,
yeah.
is there like ever is there a scenario where it's like it is clearly advantageous to not have 3D
Oh,
versus
okay.
like 3D will either keep it consistent or slightly improve on it or allow for more? Like, is it ever just like a net negative to where like we added 3D and it's just like destroyed this and we can't find a way to make it work? And I'm struggling to think of anything that would fall into that category.
Yeah, me too.
I'm trying to think of any genre that actually could fall into the category, but it's kind of hard.
Yeah,
Because otherwise, I think we just have the answer. In which case, like it is just a net I mean, so far everything we've discussed has just been like a net positive. I'm not even gonna bother asking the chicken. Like it's just so overwhelming that it.
it
Yeah,
will be like 157%.
so we're getting pretty up there.
But yeah, I think so.
Like if it
Uh,
did have a net, if it was a negative, it was temporary. Like it wasn't by virtue of being 3D. It was that like the
It was just by the
systems
game mechanics and build.
this yeah, like the systems in question just were not strong enough to handle it at the time. But then as time has gone on, we can prove that this stuff absolutely can work in 3D, and 3D
hmm.
itself isn't the problem. It's more just like how much power do you have?
I mean, there are certain games with like cell phone games like
Ooh, wait,
Mahjong.
we're echoing on Shippo's end. Like we can hear ourselves.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
No, no, no. Like
Oh yeah.
Shippo's got to get some
Uh,
headphones or
mhm.
turn
is it
um,
this
working now?
down or let's see. I
I
still
yeah, I
hear
think
it.
it's fine. A little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I
Um,
still hear it.
You're on
but
low
I would
settings. I can't even hear you that much.
Oh no.
get headphones. God damn it. Um, yeah, but I think games like like short or like free form cell phone like card games, mahjong, sudoku. I don't know. Those are games. Tetris, but there
Those are
is
like
a
board
game like
games.
Tetris 3D. Like yeah, but yeah, board games mostly. But
Tetris might be like the only like yeah, how do you truly add a third dimension? I guess like
yeah,
3D blocks, you could just find like different pattern sets and then
They
like have
actually
them.
tried a Tetris
they actually
3D.
tried
Oh, did we?
Tetris.
Ooh.
Yeah,
I
Yes,
gotta
Tetris
that was on
3D.
Virtual
Yes,
Boy.
yeah,
oh
yeah.
shit. Let's see.
That's why I mentioned Tetris because yeah, the like they tried Tetris 3D. I don't think it's stuck around because people just like the regular Tetris. Like just some
Maybe
Well,
the
things.
it's because
tried
the
and
Virtual
true.
Boy was a failure.
Yeah, but I think that some things are meant to stay the same. Like eh, it's kind of a weird because it's a weird perspective. How do you know would you see, I don't think it like took very or yeah. So I think
Mm,
most people would actually play the regular Tetris.
and I would agree. Yeah, I think Tetris might be like the one where this is a 2D game.
This is not working. Yeah, exactly. This is not working.
This ain't
Um,
it, fam.
this in it.
Like even
But
Pac-Man, like we could take that concept and
oh
just have
yeah,
like a character in a 3D map running away from ghosts. I think they can absolutely like lootly work in 3D. It just like you're gonna have to like change some mechanics, but like yeah, just like a character running away from something, having to collect like
yes,
that's basically like a Slender Man type deal. Like run away from the horror monster, but don't die while you pick up pages. Is essentially just Pac-Man, but in a whole different coat of paint.
yeah, I think so. Um, but yeah, mostly board games and Tetris and all that. I think.
Or just I mean like a board game's just a board game though. It's not really like a video
Yeah,
game.
Yeah, it's
yeah, but
not
I was
really like
like
a video game.
card games and all that stuff. I think like yeah, and mahjong and all. I don't think that there's ever a necessity for those type of games to exist in a 3D dimension. So probably because I cannot think for the life of me, I cannot think of any other genre of game or that that would not benefit or would be more enjoyable in a 2D setting than in a 3D setting. I mean, we talked about Sonic and how the big L that it
Hmm.
just
The big L.
The Big
yeah,
L.
the big L that is that are most of Sonic games, Sonic 3D games. Um, I'll still say that Sonic 3 and Knuckles is the best one. So and it's 2D. So yeah, most games. I can't. Yeah, I cannot even like platformers, shoot 'em ups. Fighting games are in that weird category where you can have certain things in 3D, but the main perspective is kind of like 2D. So,
Well, we talked about point and clicks as well too. We talked about RPGs.
mm-hmm.
I would say, wouldn't first person shooters also be like 2D to 3D as well too? Because you had your originals like Doom and stuff like that, but those were like pseudo 3D. So would that even count?
Yeah, those are were
I
like
mean, I
pseudo 3Ds
guess
because Doom,
yeah.
yeah, Doom came out as Doom 3D. I think I remember it correctly.
Isn't
It
it in
came out
3D?
like
It's just sprites and that's what makes it look like it's
Yeah, it's just
2D.
sprites
yeah,
within a 3D
exactly.
environment.
Yeah,
So it
yeah.
is 3D then because it's in a 3D environment.
It's a
So
3D
you would kind of
environment.
say that first person shooters kind of just had their big break there.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
that's definitely like a big plus. That's just like another example of yeah, three having like better 3D tech is just a W. Honestly, most genres like honestly have just it's a
Oh,
W.
imagine a 2D shooter. Jesus Christ, that would be.
I don't even think you could do a 2D shooter because it would just become a side scroller at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Like, or just like imagine like a top down 2D shooter. Oh, God. Uh, but yeah. So, but we've also talked about graphics and how they can affect negatively the game.
That's not even graphics.
So
That's just if you choose to go
if
towards a story that is a story negatively affecting the game.
I brought up my example earlier before the show started. My
mm.
example would be Mega Man.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
Mega
yeah.
Man transitioned from 2D to 3D and it did not go too well. I still like it. I think it's a good game, but I can definitely see where people are just like, no, this is dog water.
But why what was the main difference between those two
The big
games?
main difference is you go from a side scrolling shooter game to like an RPG or pseudo RPG mechanics third person shooter.
Isn't that them
Oh,
just sort of sonicking it? Like they just did it wrong? Like
Yes.
could this not just work? This concept should
But
absolutely
then
work in 3D.
then they went back to 2D because they went back with the Mega Man X games because they went with X4, X5, X6, and then PS2 comes along and X7 happens where they tried to make it 2D, but then there were 3D shooting sections, so it would go between 2D 3D cameras.
What? That was weird.
Yeah, and it was awful. It killed the X series.
Yeah.
There was only one game that came after that, and that was 8. But everything past X4 to me is dead to me. I think those games are dog shit.
Hmm. Yeah,
Except
but
for the
like,
music. The music's banger.
oh yeah, most music in games are
Very good.
in games are
Probably have the
pretty
best
good. Yeah.
composers, honestly. Like the best modern day composers, I would argue, are in games. Like the mainstream shit you're listening to, those people are not musicians.
Or fantasy films also because it's like a whole orchestra whatever. um uh, so so my question is uh are 2D games dead because
No,
I
you
would say
talked
no.
about, yeah, I you
Demonstrably
talked
no.
about, yeah, exactly. So will they, like, so if they are not dead, so it's kind of a tricky question. Were there really then, so if 2D is still like playable and people still, and there are games still coming out in 2D, so why 3D then? Like, so do you know, I'm just playing devil's advocate, just trying to stir up a little bit of discussion.
I I personally would say a game that or a game series that probably didn't transition well into 3D and probably should stick to 2D, Castlevania.
Why?
Mm.
It can absolutely work.
It can work in 3D, but it just doesn't work as well as it does in 2D.
Why not?
You have games that proven it with like Symphony of the Night. You've had games where it goes where Castlevania 64, it it works in some aspects, but the camera is just awful for it. You have games like Lords of Shadow, where it's just more of a Devil May Cry clone at that point.
It
Whereas like Castlevania, like in its original aspect being 2D, you have its side scrollers, you have its RPG mechanics, and it just feels like it works better in that aspect, in my opinion.
then that just means you haven't done it right. Like there's absolutely no reason this shouldn't work in 3D. Just instead of trying to change the genre, make a big
What could they do
map
though?
that you can go and explore in. You have literally Metroid Primes right there. See what that did.
That is true.
Take what works and then
Yeah,
just do
I
that.
mean,
Like there's really no reason this should just, it's not the fact that it's 3D, it's that's like you're just sonicking it. You're just choosing to do something stupid.
and insisting on it, right? So if you see that something doesn't work and you already have examples of um games that work, why not follow that direction? Is really like, and we go back to Sonic, like, why did it take so long for them to finally make a good
The
3D game?
technology.
Mm. Was purely hardware based.
I would argue so, yes.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know because my argument would be that Sonic was more experimentation with anything because Sonic tried to be Mario Party at one point too.
Oh yeah, I remember one game of
Yeah, that's him like having like, like a franchise, like, oh, Mario's doing it. Mario's driving carts. Mario's having parties. Mario's playing golf. Mario's working for the IRS. Now Sonic's got to do it. Like,
I mean, yeah, yeah, I agree. So in conclusion, yeah, I mean,
in
if there,
conclusion,
there in conclusion,
In
like, if there's
conclusion,
no, just to close like my argument and between like the 2D and 3D. So there are games that definitely benefited more with the 3D transition, but there are others that will still benefit from that 2D aspect. And then there are games that can function both in both um um like 2D and 3D, like the Zelda franchise, for example.
I'd say it's just like literally almost universally a net positive across the board.
I
Like
would say so.
the only
I
example we
can't
could
think of
think of is
anything that would
fucking Tetris. That's all we could think of. That's literally
maybe
Tetris.
shoot 'em ups as well too. But then again, I mean,
we just haven't we haven't
there's nothing
explored it.
really negative.
Yeah, like it's on
Yeah,
a
I would say
downgrade.
maybe the 2D to 3D was a good net positive, like you said.
Yeah.
Just net. Not even like a question really. Why is this running so slow?
So yeah, and so in terms of game graphics, do we have anything that we may need to add to the conversation? Um,
In terms of
so
like what? It's just I mean, like when you're
yeah,
saying
no,
graphics, I think you just mean like a focus on realism. Like
yeah,
graphics,
yeah, yeah.
like the
Realism
total
versus
really is like you get more, you almost get to do more because the graphical fidelity goes up, as in like you get more polygons to work with, you get more, and just by virtue of having more, like the complexity of what you can do in terms of like design, like will go up. You can hide things better. You're allowed to maybe you have a puzzle that relies on if you do this, Lara will kill an animal, but if the animals don't like it, they trigger a mudslide, and then the mudslide
oh,
kills all of Mexico, and that's just part of the puzzle. And if you want that, you're gonna need the graphical fidelity to handle that, and maybe you can't have this puzzle because you can't push the polygons. But
what's going
now,
on with
because we can push the polygons, whenever the orangutan family is like angry, and they will summon a mudslide. Now it's a possibility. It's
Oh my god, yeah, fucking mudslide, Jesus Christ. But yeah. Um my main concern is like what we said, what I said in the beginning. My main concern is like that developers
focus on
focus
that
too much,
because instead of the
yeah,
game.
focus on that instead of gameplay, or put graphics above gameplay, which I think that it should always come secondary to gameplay. I mean, it's cool if you have a good looking game, but if it doesn't work, if it doesn't play well, doesn't matter. Who cares? I don't care. So if the character is hyper realistic and I can see all the 30 eyelashes that she has, and oh, look at the freckles and all of that, and so but the gameplay sucks and the game sucks, and even the narrative sucks, like, so why waste so much time and effort and money and dedication to graphics when, like, graphics should be a consequence of building a good game from the get-go, right? I mean, am I saying anything wrong?
I mean, no, but I think
No,
it's more so like the complaint is you're putting, I guess, like a narrative versus like we're just trying to make something that looks really, really good because I'm really like trying to think of just somebody trying to have their selling point of like the game looks good and that's why you should buy it. At this point in time when everything just looks so good, like that really just can't be like your cornerstone. Like
I'd probably say one example, Final
Yeah.
Fantasy 13.
really,
13 is a great looking game. It is not the best Final Fantasy. I will defend part of it, but I will not defend its gameplay
wait, he said Batman
because all it
Arkham. Sorry.
is mashing auto battle and changing forms. That's it.
Oof.
LB and A. Two buttons you need in that whole game.
Jesus.
Is Batman Arkham a Metroidvania?
Yeah, I would say Arkham Asylum, the first one. I would say it's a Metroidvania.
So
Oh.
yeah, why can that not function as a Castlevania?
Um,
Literally just change the coat of paint.
well, how would you make it work with like characters like Simon and stuff like that, where all their primary use is just like the whip and maybe some sub weapons? That's it. Like, what could you
Uh,
innovate off of it?
I mean, I haven't played the Arkham games. Like, I really don't know like how it functions in that sense of like the movement or
I
like
mean,
how he
Batman has
moves.
unlimited that come out of his fucking belt. So, I mean,
I mean, like you have the axes, you have the holy water, you have the cross. Like they've always had like the sub weapons, like that's even being used in this game. Like you could rip off of that, add your own original. I know it's crazy. Add your own original content as well. Add on to what they use. Look into
No,
some
it's crazy.
like
I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying, but yeah, yeah, that was mainly my main concern, and that was something that we discussed like in the beginning of the stream, and midnight buy the Tomb Raider remake because it looks good. That's it. Yeah, but we also know that the
you
games
know what you're
are
getting as
good.
well, and they're so
Yeah,
starved for good Tomb Raider games that they're just happy to play something,
ex- exactly.
which is very sad.
I'm going to play it. I'm going to love it because I know the games are cool. I know the games are good games and much prettier now. So yeah, I'd rather buy a game that I've already played and I actually own the original, um, cracked and not cracked, but the Steam version just for some reason doesn't play it like the ancient ones. Like yeah. But I'd rather play that than play the latter games. I'm sorry, because I know what I'm getting. I know that I'm getting a good game but prettier. Like, take my money. I don't care. Take my money. Like,
Good lord.
take my money.
One day.
So, is there anything else we can think of that wouldn't work in a 3D space versus a 2D space?
Besides Tetris, like, yeah, honestly,
Honestly, yeah, I don't
I
think so.
can't really, I really can't. I'm
Yeah,
struggling.
it just seems like going to 3D was pretty much kind of the biggest point where it was more experimentation and
Yeah,
you had some great net positives, and then you had experiments that just didn't work in 3D, where, like, we have Sonic and everything else.
But then, like, yeah, it's like the issue wouldn't be like it because it's 3D. The issue is like the execution, and
The
yeah,
3D
it's because
just
execution,
it's
yeah, the
Sonic.
gameplay not being done properly.
yeah. But
Exactly.
like when you do it right, it's like, oh, this is fine.
This is
This is pretty
this is
good.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, so yeah, it's basically down to execution, though, right? So that's what you're what you're saying. Even with the games that didn't really work as well as other games.
Yeah. I really can't say
Okay.
like as like
Mhm.
a blanket term. 3D has been like a any kind of a negative. In fact, it just allows for things to evolve, add more. New genres have come out of it. Just yeah, what a non-discussion it is. Just
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's still a good it's still a
I mean,
good
we
thing
tried to
just
think of some points.
eh.
We really
yeah.
did.
I mean, and that's what these types of discussions are about. Like we try to actually think of like play the devil's advocate. Think of something that could actually
Nah, I need
be
my
bad
highlight
or like
clips. I need someone getting mad and calling me the N-word. Is the only way.
"Perv, nigga."
I don't think Castlevania works in 3D. God damn it, you naggers!
Nag,
Oh,
nag, 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 nag.
oh my
But yeah,
word. Where are we at?
yeah,
I
but
mean,
like,
People
yeah.
who
yeah,
annoy me.
yeah, but Tetris, like, yeah, I could not think of one like, yeah, mainly franchises because we get to a point that we're just getting franchises and like Halo 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and like Tomb Raider 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. How many Zelda games are there? 10, 20? I don't know.
Over
Um,
20?
Mm,
how many Sonic games are there?
a lot.
So
Over 40?
basically, yeah. So basically, all this is like experimentation, and then you see if it works, it works. If it doesn't, like scratch that, move on to the next thing. So I don't think that there's any discussion here. Only discussion could be in terms of graphics, like the question I asked, like when will we hit that wall, and when our
Things you think
graphics,
handled it better and worse,
yeah,
honestly.
yeah, but when will graphics become more important than will graphics become more important than gameplay ever?
Probably not. Doubt it.
Probably
Yeah.
not.
Okay.
Never
I'm just
has,
trying
never
to ask
will.
questions.
Oy vey. I mean,
Well,
yeah.
but unfortunately, there are companies that are prioritizing graphics and storytelling instead of gameplay, right? So,
And we hate them.
so
So
yeah, we hate them, but they sell. Come on, like, but that's the thing. Why are they selling then?
the
The
Like,
same
casual
concept
audience.
can go for movies.
God
There's
damn
really shitty
it!
movies that sell really
Yeah,
well.
Eh,
whoever got the idea for The Last of Us, like, jump off a bridge, please.
Jesus Christ. All right. Well,
I'm
with
just
that,
kidding. I'm
no,
just
she's
kidding.
not. She means it. That's a threat. We want to hear about
Hey,
your suicide on
I
by
was
tomorrow.
here for the Last of Us 2 race, and God, that was a nightmare.
She hasn't killed herself yet until The
uh,
Last of Us 3.
oh my God, no! Please don't tell me that's a thing. That's
Oh, it's
actually a
happening.
thing. No, no way. I thought that was a meme.
I want The Last of
No.
Us 3 to just be like Joel waking up on the couch, like, oh man, that's a terrifying like nightmare. All right, time to like, okay,
Time to
let's,
go to work and gets in
yeah.
this pickup truck and drives off on the ground, start rolling.
Oh man, I had the wildest nightmare, Ellie. Like it was crazy.
No, I really thought it was a meme. What is there left to tell? What is there? Uh, uh, I'm so
Other people's
confused.
stories.
Yeah,
I mean, okay,
That's all I
but
can think of.
that would require writers, which they have none. So
Ellie ended up alone. Like, what the fuck? Like, what? Mm. Gracie,
that,
it's your fault.
So, do we have anything else to add?
I'm
I don't. I,
I'm
I don't think
tapped.
so.
That chicken is not working today because it's pretty obvious that
Yeah,
it's just a net positive.
Yeah, it's a
yeah.
full
It's a
positive in my opinion. I can't think of anything else that would be negative.
negative. Yeah. I tried to think about it, yeah, but I really couldn't. All I could is like think of games that actually
No,
made the transition better than others. So could that be a question? Did some game? I mean,
I
yeah,
mean,
but
yes, clearly.
we already know that question. Yeah, so maybe yeah, that was the debate. So which games made the transition better from 2D
So maybe that
to
could be so.
3D?
Maybe we can like all
Yeah,
prep a case. You
that
know
was a
what?
question.
Now,
That was a
now we're in the
question.
prep work case. So in which case, yeah, no verdict to be decided. You got the verdict.
You
The
got the
verdict
verdict.
is yes.
Verdict is in.
That's it.
Yeah,
The verdict is
I can't think of any negatives really. Everything kind of just improved upon itself. I mean, the only thing that we could say net negative, but it comes back to the aspect of execution,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
is
Who is
that
it? Yeah.
some franchises just they tried to do something different, it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
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 Maybe we just need to have a little battle of who did it the best, perhaps. So
Yeah.
That actually would be a good idea.
that be
That's what I
so.
was saying.
We just
Yeah.
have to
I think that's the main question. Who did it best?
get some. We'll have to get some research going. Get ready to fight that battle.
Who did it best?
We needed some brainstorming.
Oh yeah.
Player one
Until then,
on the right corner.
y'all can get the fuck out. Goodbye.
We can get some joy tonight with the railway. Get some joy tonight, so we can get some joy tonight. Just get the sunshine. We can get some joy tonight with the railway. Get some joy tonight, so we can get some joy tonight. Just get the sunshine. Are we having fun yet?